The Professional Security Guard. The Complete Ontario PSISA Training Manual and Exam Prep Guide. Genre: Education. Target audience: aspiring security guards, career changers, security training students. Style: technical, practical, reference, instructional. Structure model: DeepSeek Chat Content Model, DeepSeek Chat. Chapter 1, Chapter 1, Introduction to the Security Industry. Sections. Section 1.1, Defining Modern Private Security, a Distinct Profession from Public Policing. Section 1.2, The Core Mandate, Protection of People, Property, Information, and Liability Mitigation. Section 1.3, The Evolving Role of Private Security in Ontario's Public Safety Ecosystem. Section 1.4, A Spectrum of Security Roles, from Uniformed Guard to Executive Protection. Section 1.5, Career Pathways and Professional Conduct in the 21st Century. Welcome to the professional world of private security in Ontario, Canada. You are about to enter a field that demands integrity, sharp judgment, and a commitment to public safety that rivals any profession in the justice system. This chapter establishes the foundation upon which your entire career will be built. Every seasoned security professional remembers their first shift, the weight of the uniform, the scrutiny of every shadow, the question lingering in the back of their mind, what am I really supposed to do here? That question deserves a thorough answer. Section 1.1, Defining Modern Private Security, a Distinct Profession from Public Policing. A common misconception persists that security guards are simply private police with fewer powers. This is inaccurate and legally dangerous. Private security and public policing in Canada operate under fundamentally different legal frameworks, authorities, and accountability structures. Aspect: Private security, public policing. Your authority as a security professional flows from property rights. When a property owner hires you, you stand in their legal shoes regarding that specific location. This is a steep departure from a police officer's broad mandate. Author's reflection: Early in my career, I watched a new guard attempt to detain someone for jaywalking outside the building he was protecting. That guard was not only wrong, he exposed his employer to civil liability. Understanding your legal boundaries isn't just academic, it protects you, your client, and the public. The evolution of private security in Ontario mirrors broader societal changes. As public policing resources became stretched, private security filled gaps in the safety ecosystem. Today, there are approximately 3 private security personnel for every police officer in Canada. This statistic underscores the immense responsibility you are about to assume. Section 1.2, The Core Mandate, Protection of People, Property, Information, and Liability Mitigation. Every security assignment, regardless of the specific role, distills down to 4 fundamental responsibilities. Memorize them. Internalize them. They will guide every decision you make. Protection of people. Your primary duty is to preserve human life and safety. This includes employees, visitors, tenants, and even individuals who may be trespassing. When a medical emergency occurs on your site, you are often the first trained responder. Your observation, intervention, and timely notification to emergency services can mean the difference between life and death. Protection of property. Assets held by your client, buildings, equipment, inventory, intellectual property, fall under your watch. This responsibility extends beyond theft prevention to include fire safety, vandalism deterrence, and environmental hazards. Every crack in the pavement you report, every unlocked door you secure, every suspicious vehicle you document contributes to asset preservation. Protection of information. In an era where data breaches dominate headlines, information security has become central to the security guard's role. You may be tasked with monitoring access to server rooms, observing for tailgating, unauthorized individuals following authorized personnel through secure doors, and reporting suspicious behavior around sensitive areas. Your memo book itself contains confidential information about security protocols, alarm codes, and incident details. Liability mitigation. Perhaps the most misunderstood component of your mandate is liability mitigation. Your presence, documentation, and proactive interventions reduce the legal exposure of your client. A well-maintained incident report can be the decisive factor in a lawsuit. Your patrols demonstrate due diligence, a legal concept meaning reasonable steps were taken to prevent harm. Let these four elements sit with you. Every post order, every policy, every training module you encounter connects to one or more of these pillars. Section 1.3, The Evolving Role of Private Security in Ontario's Public Safety Ecosystem. Private security does not operate in isolation. You function within a broader public safety framework that includes police, fire services, paramedics, bylaw enforcement, and community organizations. Understanding your place within this ecosystem ensures effective collaboration and prevents jurisdictional confusion. The partnership model. Consider the relationship between private security and police as a partnership, not a hierarchy. You are the eyes and ears of the site. Police are the enforcement arm with powers you do not possess. When you observe a criminal act, your role is to observe and document everything you see, hear, and smell. Protect the scene from contamination or interference. Preserve evidence for police investigation. Report professionally to responding officers. Provide witness testimony if required in court. You do not chase suspects into traffic. You do not conduct independent investigations beyond your legal authority. You do not make arrests unless the strict conditions of Section 494 of the Criminal Code are met, which we will explore in detail in Chapter 4. The changing face of security. The 21st century has transformed private security in Ontario. Technology integration, specialized training requirements, and increased professional standards have elevated the field. Today's security professional may operate advanced CCTV systems with facial recognition capabilities, manage electronic access control systems, respond to sophisticated fire alarm and suppression systems, conduct cybersecurity patrols, monitoring for unauthorized network access, interact with individuals in crisis, including mental health emergencies. This evolution demands continuous learning. The guard who relies on outdated methods or resists new technology will not succeed. The guard who embraces professional development will advance. Figure, a split diagram showing the private security ecosystem in Ontario. Left side illustrates a security guard at a building entrance with icons representing eyes, observation, notepad, documentation, radio, communication, and shield, protection. Right side shows connecting lines to police car, fire truck, ambulance, and city building, bylaw. Center top reads partnership, not hierarchy. Style, clean, professional infographic with blue and green tones. Lighting is even, corporate aesthetic. Composition balances visual weight between left and right panels. Section 1.4, a spectrum of security roles, from uniformed guard to executive protection. The term security guard encompasses a remarkably diverse range of positions. Understanding this spectrum helps you identify where your skills, temperament, and career aspirations align. Uniformed stationary guard. The most visible role in the industry. You will find uniformed guards at building lobbies, hospital entrances, school doors, and government buildings. Responsibilities include access control, visitor screening, incident response, and customer service. This role demands strong communication skills and situational awareness. Mobile patrol guard. Operating a marked security vehicle, mobile patrol guards conduct inspections of multiple sites during a shift. Duties include checking door locks, verifying alarm systems, inspecting perimeter lighting, and responding to alarm activations. This role requires a valid driver's license, defensive driving skills, and comfort working alone. Loss prevention officer. Also known as asset protection, this role focuses on preventing theft within retail environments. Loss prevention officers monitor customer behavior, observe for shoplifting, and collaborate with store management. This role carries specific legal limitations regarding detainment and apprehension, more on this in Chapter 4. Concierge security. a hybrid role combining security duties with front desk and customer service functions. Concierge security personnel manage visitor check-in, issue access cards, handle resident or tenant inquiries, and maintain a professional presence in luxury residential or commercial buildings. This role demands polished interpersonal skills and a service-oriented mindset. Executive protection, bodyguard. The most specialized role typically involves protecting high-profile individuals, corporate executives, or celebrities. Executive protection requires advanced training in threat assessment, defensive driving, advanced work, and close-quarter protection. This is not an entry-level position, it typically requires years of experience and specialized certifications. Event security. Concerts, sporting events, festivals, and conventions require security personnel for crowd management, perimeter control, and emergency response. Event security demands flexibility, physical stamina, and the ability to maintain composure in high-energy environments. Role primary setting key skills required typical experience level. Your first role may not be your forever role. Use each position as a learning opportunity. Observe how experienced guards handle challenging situations. Note what works and what does not. Build your repertoire of skills. Section 1.5 Career Pathways and Professional Conduct in the 21st Century. Security is not a dead-end job. It is a career with clear pathways for advancement, specialization, and increased responsibility. However, advancement requires intentional effort and professional conduct. Career progression. Entry-level, licensed security guard working under direct supervision. Focus on mastering fundamentals, report writing, patrol procedures, communication skills. Intermediate level, senior guard, shift supervisor, or site lead. Responsibilities include training new guards, conducting site inspections, and liaising with clients. Additional certifications, first aid, WHMIS, use of force, become expected. Advanced level, security manager, account manager, or operations director. These roles involve team management, budget oversight, policy development, and client relationship management. Post-secondary education in security management or business administration becomes valuable. Specialized pathways, investigative services, cybersecurity consulting, risk assessment, or executive protection. Each requires targeted training and experience. Professional conduct in the modern era. The security professional of the 21st century must embody certain core values. Integrity, your word must be your bond. If you say you will patrol a certain area, you patrol it. If you promise to follow up on an incident, you follow up. Your reputation is your most valuable asset. Professionalism, uniform standards, punctuality, respectful communication, and continuous learning define the professional guard. You represent your employer and the industry every moment you are in uniform. Emotional intelligence, the ability to read situations, manage your own emotions, and de-escalate conflict is more valuable than physical strength. The guard who can talk a person down from anger without laying hands on them is worth their weight in gold. Adaptability, technology changes. Regulations change. Threat landscapes change. The successful guard embraces change and seeks to stay current. Ethical decision-making, you will face situations where the lazy choice conflicts with the right choice. Always choose right. Your license, your career, and potentially someone's safety depend on it. Author's note, I have watched careers end in a single moment of poor judgment, a guard who falsified patrol logs, another who accepted a gift to look the other way, a third who used excessive force because they lost their temper. None of these people planned to destroy their careers. It happened because they abandoned their professional principles in a moment of pressure. Build your ethical foundation now, before you are tested. Figure mind map. Create a detailed mind map for Chapter 1 to Introduction to the Security Industry from a Security Guard Training Manual. Central Node, Private Security in Ontario. First Ring Branches, Section 1.1 Defining Modern Private Security, Contrast with Public Policing, Section 1.2 Core Mandate, Protection of People, Property, Information, Liability Mitigation, Section 1.3 Evolving Role, Partnership Model, Ecosystem Integration, Section 1.4 Spectrum of Roles, Uniformed Stationary, Mobile Patrol, Loss Prevention, Concierge, Executive Protection, Event Security, Section 1.5 Career Pathways, Entry, Intermediate, Advanced, Specialized, Professional Conduct Values. Integrity, Professionalism, Emotional Intelligence, Adaptability, Ethical Decision-Making. Include sub-branches with specific concepts: Citizens Arrest Limitations, PSISA Framework Introduction, 3 Private Security for 1 Police Officer Statistic, Due Diligence Concept, Technological Evolution, CCTV, Access Control. Use professional color scheme: navy blue primary, light blue secondary, gray accents. Clean, structured layout suitable for educational material. Ensure all branches connect back to central node. Style, professional instructional design mind map with clear hierarchy. Chapter 2, the PSISA and Regulations. Sections. Section 2.1, the Foundation, Understanding the Private Security and Investigative Services Act, PSISA. Section 2.2, Mandatory Licensing and the 40-hour Training Standard, Your Path to Certification. Section 2.3, the Code of Conduct, Ethics, Prohibitions, and Professional Boundaries. Section 2.4, Uniforms, Marked Vehicles, and Authorized Equipment, Rules and Restrictions. Section 2.5, Consequences of Non-Compliance, Fines, Suspensions, and License Revocation. The first step onto any site as a security professional should feel grounded in confidence, not just in your physical presence, but in your legal authority. That confidence comes from understanding the law that governs you. Without that foundation, you are operating in the dark. The Private Security and Investigative Services Act, PSISA, is the single most important piece of legislation you will encounter in your career. It defines who you are, what you can do, and what you must never do. This chapter will walk you through every provision that will appear on your licensing exam, and every principle that will protect you on the job. Section 2.1, the Foundation, Understanding the Private Security and Investigative Services Act, PSISA. Every regulated profession in Ontario has a governing statute. For doctors, it is the Medicine Act. For police officers, it is the Police Services Act. For you, it is the PSISA, the Private Security and Investigative Services Act, 2005, ESO. 2005, C.34. The PSISA was not created overnight. Prior to 2005, Ontario's private security industry operated under a patchwork of outdated regulations with minimal oversight. Unlicensed individuals could work security, training standards varied wildly, and there was no consistent code of conduct. The provincial government recognized that a rapidly growing industry, one entrusted with protecting people, property, and sensitive information, needed a modern legal framework. Figure, AI-generated diagram showing a timeline from 2005 to present, marking key PSISA milestones: 2005 passage, 2008 mandatory licensing rollout, 2010 training standard introduction, 2018 enforcement expansion. Style, clean infographic with blue regulatory theme, Ontario government crest at top left, readable date markers and brief descriptions. The Act accomplishes for critical objectives. Licensing, it requires every security guard, private investigator, and agency owner to hold a valid provincial license issued by the Ministry of the Solicitor General. Training, it mandates a minimum 40-hour training standard plus a provincial exam before anyone can work in the field. Conduct, it establishes a binding code of conduct that sets ethical and professional boundaries. Enforcement, it gives the Registrar of Private Security and Investigative Services the power to inspect, investigate, suspend, and revoke licenses. The PSISA applies to anyone who performs security work in Ontario, whether you guard a construction site, patrol a shopping mall, monitor CCTV cameras, or provide bodyguard services. There are limited exemptions for in-house security personnel employed directly by a single organization, but even those exemptions carry specific conditions. As a licensed guard, you fall squarely under the Act's authority. Section 2.2, Mandatory Licensing and the 40-hour Training Standard, Your Path to Certification. Becoming a licensed security guard in Ontario is not merely a matter of filling out a form. It is a deliberate process designed to ensure every guard meets a minimum standard of competence. The path has 4 distinct steps, and each one matters. Step 1. Complete the 40-hour Basic Security Training, BST. The cornerstone of your certification is the Basic Security Training Program. This is not a suggestion or a recommendation, it is the law. Section 10 of Ontario Regulation 3708, the regulation under the PSISA, states clearly that no applicant may receive a license without completing an approved training program. Your 40-hour BST must cover the following mandatory modules. The role and responsibilities of a security professional. The PSISA and related regulations, this chapter. Report writing and note-taking. Legal authorities. Communication and use of force. Emergency response procedures. Health and safety. Figure, AI-generated diagram showing a circular process flow for the 40-hour BST curriculum, 7 interconnected modules surrounding a central hub labeled licensing eligibility. Style, clean professional diagram, blue and green color scheme, each module labeled with icon representing content area. You must attend all 40 hours. Partial attendance does not count. Online training is permitted, but it must be delivered by a ministry-approved provider. Your training certificate is valid for 18 months from the date of course completion. If you do not obtain your license within that window, you must retrain. Step 2. Pass the provincial exam. After completing the 40-hour BST, you must write and pass the Ministry of the Solicitor General's Security Guard exam. The exam consists of 60 multiple-choice questions drawn directly from the BST curriculum. You have 75 minutes to complete it, and you must achieve a score of 60% or higher. The exam is administered at designated testing centres across the province. You will need photo identification and your BST completion certificate to register. If you fail, you may rewrite the exam, but you must wait 14 days between attempts. There is no limit on the number of rewrites, but each attempt carries a fee. Step 3. Submit your license application. Once you have passed the exam, you submit your application to the Ministry of the Solicitor General. The application requires proof of BST completion, proof of exam results, a completed application form with your personal details, a criminal record check, including a vulnerable sector check if applicable, 2 recent passport-sized photographs, the applicable license fee. Your license application must be submitted within 18 months of completing your BST. If the deadline passes, you must retake the training. Step 4. Receive your license and begin working. Once approved, you will receive a plastic wallet-sized license card bearing your photograph, license number, and expiry date. This card is your professional identity. You must carry it at all times while on duty. Failure to produce it upon request by a ministry inspector, police officer, or your employer can result in disciplinary action. Your license is valid for 2 years. Renewal requires completing 20 hours of continuing education every 2-year cycle. This ensures your knowledge stays current as laws and industry standards evolve. Section 2.3, the Code of Conduct, Ethics, Prohibitions, and Professional Boundaries. Licensing is only half the equation. The PSISA also establishes a code of conduct, a binding set of rules that governs how you behave on and off duty. Violating the code is not merely a matter of poor judgment. It is a regulatory offence that can cost you your license. The Code of Conduct is found in Ontario Regulation 3708, Sections 19 through 26. Here are the provisions that will directly affect your day-to-day work. Prohibition on discrimination. You must not discriminate against any person based on race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, marital status, family status, or disability. This is not a suggestion, it is a legal obligation. A security guard who refuses service to someone because of their appearance or background is violating the code. Prohibition on excessive force. You may only use force that is reasonable and necessary in the circumstances. The code explicitly states that excessive force is prohibited. This aligns with the Criminal Code and the National Use of Force Framework, which we will cover in detail in Chapter 5. The key point here is that your employer and the ministry will hold you accountable for every use of force, not just the ones that make the news. Restrictions on titles and terms. You must not use the term police, law enforcement, peace officer, or any similar term that implies you hold public policing authority. Your uniform may not bear patches or insignia that could reasonably be confused with any police service in Ontario. The public must not be misled about your role. This is why your badge says security and not police. Honesty and integrity. You must act honestly and with integrity. This means not making false statements in reports or testimony, not misrepresenting your authority to anyone, not engaging in fraud, theft, or dishonesty while on duty, not assisting anyone in evading the law. Duty to report. If you are charged with a criminal offense while holding a security license, you must notify the registrar within 14 days. Failure to do so can result in immediate license suspension. Similarly, if your employment ends for any reason related to misconduct, your employer may be required to report that to the ministry. Figure, AI-generated infographic showing a shield divided into 4 quadrants: honesty, respect, lawfulness, accountability. Each quadrant contains 2 to 3 brief bullet points from the Code of Conduct. Style, clean professional layout, gold and navy color scheme, Ontario crest watermark in background. Section 2.4 Uniforms, marked vehicles, and authorized equipment, rules and restrictions. The PSISA does not just regulate what you do, it regulates how you look while doing it. Uniforms, vehicles, and equipment are all subject to specific rules that protect the public and distinguish you from law enforcement. Uniform requirements. Your uniform must clearly identify you as a security professional. It must include your company's name or logo, the word security displayed prominently, your individual license number. In some jurisdictions, this is required on the outer garment. You must not wear a uniform that resembles any municipal, provincial, or federal police service. This means no dark navy trousers with a French blue shirt and a badge that says Security Patrol. If it could be mistaken for a police uniform, it is prohibited. Marked vehicles. If your employer provides a vehicle for mobile patrol, it must be marked with the company name and the word security. The vehicle may not have flashing red or blue lights; those are restricted to emergency vehicles. Amber lights are permitted only for safety purposes, such as when stopped on a roadway. The vehicle may not have a siren. It may not have markings that resemble a police cruiser. The public must be able to immediately identify it as a private security vehicle. Authorized equipment, batons and handcuffs. This is one of the most important sections of the PSISA for any guard who carries equipment. Batons. You may only carry a baton if your employer has authorized it in writing, you have completed an approved use of force training course that specifically covers baton use, and your employer has issued the baton to you. You cannot purchase your own baton and carry it on duty without your employer's knowledge and authorization. Handcuffs. The same rules apply. Handcuffs must be employer-issued, authorized in writing, and used only after completing approved training. You cannot carry your own handcuffs just in case. Firearms. Only certain categories of security guards, primarily those working in armored car transport or guarding specific high-value sites, are authorized to carry firearms. This requires a separate license and additional training. Other weapons, pepper spray, conducted energy weapons, tasers, and other defensive tools are generally prohibited for private security guards in Ontario unless you fall under specific exemptions. Figure, AI-generated diagram showing an equipment authorization flowchart. Start dash is the item a baton or handcuffs. Dash employer authorized in writing. Dash approved training completed. Dash employer issued the item. Dash is it in the PSISA list? Dash yes, permitted. Each note path leads to not permitted. Style, decision tree format, green check marks and red X marks. The reasoning behind these restrictions is straightforward: equipment can be dangerous, and the law wants to ensure that only properly trained, employer-supervised guards carry it. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you want to carry a piece of equipment that your employer has not authorized, stop and think. The PSISA treats that as a violation, and the consequences can follow you for years. Section 2.5, Consequences of Non-Compliance, Fines, Suspensions, and License Revocation. Understanding the PSISA means understanding the stakes. Non-compliance is not a minor inconvenience, it is a legal liability that can end your career. Administrative penalties. The registrar has the authority to impose administrative monetary penalties for violations of the PSISA or its regulations. These penalties are not criminal fines, they are regulatory tools designed to enforce compliance without going through the courts. Penalties can range from a few $100s to several thousand, depending on the severity and frequency of the violation. License suspensions and revocations. For more serious violations, the registrar can suspend or revoke your license. A suspension means you cannot work as a security guard for a specified period. A revocation means your license is cancelled entirely. If your license is revoked, you are not eligible to reapply for a period of time determined by the registrar. Grounds for suspension or revocation include conviction for a criminal offense. Certain offenses make you ineligible to hold a license, violating the code of conduct, providing false information on your license application, failing to complete required continuing education, using excessive force or discriminatory behavior. Prosecution under the Provincial Offences Act. Some violations of the PSISA can result in prosecution under the Provincial Offences Act. This is a formal legal proceeding that can result in fines of up to $25,000 for individuals and up to $250,000 for corporations. Repeat offenders face higher penalties. Loss of employment. Beyond legal consequences, non-compliance almost always results in job loss. Your employer is required to report certain violations to the ministry. A guard who loses their license cannot legally work security, and most employers will not rehire a guard whose license was revoked for misconduct. Figure, AI-generated flowchart showing the enforcement pyramid: base layer, administrative penalties, minor violations. Middle layer, suspension, serious violations. Top layer, revocation, critical violations. Adjacent box, Provincial Offences Act prosecution, criminal-like penalties. Style, pyramid hierarchy, color gradient from green, minor, to red, critical, dot. Real-world scenario, the unauthorized baton. You are working a late-night shift at a downtown retail plaza. The site has had recent issues with aggressive individuals near the entrance. A colleague tells you they carry a collapsible baton in their duty bag just in case. They show it to you. It's a brand they bought online and never told the employer about. They ask if you want to get one too. Analysis? This scenario presents a clear violation of the PSISA. The baton is not employer authorized, no training has been documented, and the employer has not issued it. Your colleague is carrying an unauthorized weapon. If caught, they could face license suspension, administrative penalties, and termination. Your professional response: do not purchase a baton. Inform your colleague politely that what they're doing is illegal under the PSISA and explain the risks. If they continue carrying it, consider whether you have an obligation to report it to your supervisor. This is not about being a snitch, it is about protecting your colleague from losing their career and protecting yourself from liability. Remember, if a situation escalates and your colleague uses that baton improperly, you could be questioned about what you knew. Review quiz, Chapter 2. Question 1. What is the minimum passing score on the Ministry of the Solicitor General's Security Guard exam? 50%. 60%. 70%. 80%. Question 2. Under the PSISA Code of Conduct, which of the following is prohibited? Wearing a uniform with the company logo. Using the term security patrol on your vehicle. Using the term police on your uniform. Carrying your license while on duty. Question 3. How long is your basic security training certificate valid before you must receive your license? 6 months. 12 months. 18 months. 24 months. Question 4. Which of the following is required before you can carry a baton while on duty? Approval from the Ministry of the Solicitor General. Written authorization from your employer and approved training. A separate baton license. Completion of a baton training course offered by any provider. Question 5. What is the maximum fine an individual can face under the Provincial Offences Act for a PSISA violation? $5,000. $10,000. $25,000. $50,000. Answers: 1B, 2C, 3C, 4B, 5C. Figure mind map. Create a detailed mind map titled PSISA and Regulations, a security guard's legal framework. The central node is Private Security and Investigative Services Act, PSISA. Branch 1, Licensing Requirements, branches into 40-hour BST, provincial exam, 60% pass, application process, 2-year renewal. Branch 2, Code of Conduct, branches into no discrimination, no excessive force, no misleading titles, honesty and integrity, duty to report. Branch 3, Uniforms and Equipment, branches into a clearly marked as security, no police resemblance, authorized batons, handcuffs, employer written, training, issuer. Branch 4, Consequences, branches into administrative penalties, license suspension, license revocation, provincial offences prosecution, $25,000. Style, clean professional mind map, navy blue and gold colour scheme, Ontario provincial government watermark in background, each branch with concise bullet points, central node larger and bolder. Chapter 3, Report writing and note-taking. Sections. Section 3.1, The Memo Book as a legal document, your foundation for credible testimony. Section 3.2, Principles of accurate, factual, and unbiased observation and recording. Section 3.3, the 5Ws and the H-Day structured framework for incident reports. Section 3.4, Writing in the third person, past tense, eliminating opinion and assumption. Section 3.5, Common report writing errors and how to avoid them. There is a moment every security guard remembers, the one where you're standing in a quiet hallway, pen hovering over a blank page in your memo book, and you realize that everything you write from this point forward could end up under a microscope in a courtroom. Your words will be read by lawyers, judges, and insurance adjusters. They will be dissected, questioned, and compared against every other piece of evidence in a case. This chapter is about preparing you for that moment. Report writing and note-taking are not administrative afterthoughts. They are the single most important skill you will develop as a security professional. You can handle a situation flawlessly, calm a hostile individual, secure a scene, coordinate with emergency responders, but if your notes are incomplete, biased, or factually inaccurate, your entire performance becomes defensively weak. Your memo book is your witness. It never forgets, never gets emotional, and never contradicts itself. But only if you treat it with the respect it deserves. Let's build that skill together. Section 3.1, The Memo Book as a legal document, your foundation for credible testimony. Think of your memo book as a second brain, one that operates on pure, untainted fact. Every entry you make becomes a permanent record that can be subpoenaed, admitted as evidence, and used to refresh your memory during testimony years after an incident occurred. A judge does not care what you think happened. A judge cares what you wrote when the events were fresh. Why your memo book matters in court. The Canadian legal system operates on the principle that memory fades. Human recollection is notoriously unreliable, witnesses forget details, misremember sequences, and unconsciously fill gaps with assumptions. Your memo book serves as a contemporaneous record, meaning it was created at or near the time of the event. Courts give significant weight to contemporaneous notes because they are less likely to be influenced by bias, pressure, or the passage of time. Consider this scenario: you testify about an incident that occurred 18 months ago. The defense attorney asks, "Officer, how can you be certain the subject was holding a screwdriver and not a key?" If you say, "I remember clearly," the attorney will challenge your memory. But if you say, "My notes, made within 5 minutes of the incident, state, subject was holding a silver metal object approximately 15 centimeters in length with a tapered end consistent with a screwdriver," your credibility is virtually unassailable. Best practices for memo book management. Your memo book is a legal document. Treat it as such. Use a bound notebook with numbered pages. Spiral-bound or loose-leaf notebooks are unacceptable because pages can be removed or inserted, destroying the integrity of the record. Standard security memo books are hardbound with sequentially numbered pages. Never remove pages. If you make an error, draw a single line through the mistake, initial it, and continue. The reader must still be able to see the original entry. This demonstrates transparency. Write in ink, not pencil. Ballpoint pen is standard. Pencil can be erased and altered, which destroys evidentiary value. Start each shift on a new page. Record your name, badge number, site name, date, and shift start time at the top of the page. This establishes context for every entry that follows. End each shift clearly. Draw a line across the page after your final entry, or right end of shift. This prevents anyone from adding fraudulent entries to your book after you have left. Keep your memo book on your person at all times. It should never be left unattended on a desk, in a patrol vehicle, or in a common area. It is as important as your radio and your flashlight. Author's reflection: I once testified in a case where the entire outcome hinged on a single entry I made at 2:47 a.m. The defense attorney spent 20 minutes trying to suggest I had misremembered the timeline. I simply read my notes aloud. 0247 hours, subject observed entering stairwell B. 0252 hours, subject observed exiting stairwell B accompanied by female who was not present upon entry. The judge accepted my notes as fact. That memo book was my shield. Section 3.2, Principles of Accurate, Factual, and Unbiased Observation and Recording. A security guard's job is to observe and report, not to interpret, assume, or judge. Yet human nature pulls us toward interpretation. We see someone walking quickly and assume they are fleeing. We hear a loud voice and assume aggression. These assumptions have no place in your memo book. The difference between observation and interpretation. Let us clarify this distinction with an example. Observation, interpretation. The left column contains facts that can be verified. The right column contains opinions that can be challenged. In a courtroom, the observation stands, the interpretation crumbles. The 5 senses, your only reliable tools. Your notes should be based exclusively on information gathered through your 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, touch, and, rarely, taste. If you did not personally observe, hear, smell, feel, or taste something, it does not belong in your factual narrative. Consider this common scenario: another guard tells you they saw a subject tampering with a door lock. You did not witness this yourself. Your note should reflect only what you directly observed. You can include information received from others, but you must clearly attribute it. Guard Smith advised me that he observed subject number 1 using a metal tool on the lock of door 7A at approximately 0315 hours. This is not hearsay, it is documentation of what you were told. Avoiding bias and prejudice. The Ontario Human Rights Code and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms prohibit discrimination based on race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, marital status, family status, or disability. Your notes must reflect this standard. Do not include descriptors that are irrelevant to the incident. If you are documenting a trespassing incident, the subject's race, ethnicity, or religious attire is almost certainly irrelevant. Focus on distinguishing features that are objective and verifiable: height, build, clothing, hairstyle, visible tattoos or scars, and unique accessories. Key principle: if a descriptor does not help identify the subject or establish facts about the incident, leave it out. Your note should be a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Section 3.3, the 5 Ws and the H-Day Structured Framework for Incident Reports. Every incident report, whether written in your memo book or typed as a formal report, should answer 6 fundamental questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. This framework ensures completeness and consistency across all your documentation. Who? Identify every person involved in the incident, including subjects, individuals who are the focus of the report, witnesses, victims or complainants, other security personnel or first responders, any person who arrived or departed during the incident. For each person, record full name, ask for identification and verify date of birth, physical description, height, weight, build, hair color, eye color, distinguishing features, clothing description, color, style, brand names if visible, contact information, address, phone number, email if provided, role in the incident. What? Describe the incident in clear, chronological order. What happened first? What happened next? What happened last? Avoid jumping between events. Your narrative should read like a timeline. Where? Record the precise location of the incident, including building name or address, floor, room number, or specific area, e.g., south stairwell between floors 2 and 3, exterior locations, e.g., parking lot B, row 7, approximately 10 meters east of the main entrance, any landmarks or identifiers that would help someone unfamiliar with the site locate the area. When? Record the date and time of every significant event within the incident. Use the 24-hour clock, military time, as required by security industry standards. Never use approximations like around 3 p.m. or a few minutes later. Be precise, 1,647 hours, approximately 3 minutes later at 1,650 hours. Why? Explain the reason for the incident or behavior, but only if it is based on fact or direct witness statements. Do not speculate. If a subject said, "I broke the window because I was locked out of my car," record that statement verbatim. If no reason is known, state, "Reason for the incident is unknown at this time." How? Describe the method or sequence of events that led to the incident. How did the subject gain access? How was the incident discovered? How did the situation escalate or de-escalate? This section ties together the who and what into a coherent narrative. Figure, detailed professional diagram showing the 5 Ws and the H framework arranged in a circular flow chart. At the center is a magnifying glass over a memo book. 6 arrows radiate outward to boxes labeled who, what, where, when, why, and how. Each box contains 2 to 3 bullet point examples of relevant information. The diagram uses a clean blue and gray color scheme with a professional, instructional aesthetic. Text is bold and readable. Style, technical illustration for security training manual. Section 3.4, writing in the third person, past tense, eliminating opinion and assumption. 2 grammatical rules are non-negotiable in security report writing, third person and past tense. These rules exist to force objectivity and precision into your documentation. Why third person? First person writing, I saw, I heard, I believed, places the focus on you, the observer, rather than on the facts of the incident. Third person writing, security guard observed, the guard heard, it appeared to the guard, distances the writer from the narrative and reinforces objectivity. Consider the difference. First person, avoid, third person, preferred. Why past tense? Incidents occur in the past. Your report is a historical document describing events that have already happened. Writing in present tense, the subject runs toward the door, confuses the timeline and suggests the event is ongoing when it has already concluded. Always use past tense, subject was observed entering the restricted area. Witness stated that she heard a loud crash at approximately 0215 hours. Guard requested additional units and remained on scene until police arrived. eliminating opinion and assumption. Words like appeared, seemed, apparently, and obviously are red flags in security reports. They signal that you are interpreting rather than observing. If you cannot state something as a fact, you should not state it at all. Instead of, the subject appeared intoxicated. Write, subject's speech was slurred. Subject's eyes were bloodshot and partially closed. Subject swayed while standing and required support from the wall to maintain balance. Subject smelled of an alcoholic beverage. The second version provides the same information. The subject was likely intoxicated, but it does so through verifiable observations rather than subjective interpretation. A court can evaluate your observations independently. They cannot evaluate your opinion. Section 3.5 Common Report Writing Errors and How to Avoid Them. Even experienced security professionals make mistakes in their reports. The key is to recognize these errors before they become liabilities. Here are the most common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Error number 1: writing in chronological reverse. Many guards, when describing an incident, start with the most dramatic moment and then backtrack to explain how it began. This confuses readers and makes your timeline difficult to follow. Solution: always write in strict chronological order. Start with the first thing that happened and proceed step by step. If you need to reference an earlier event, do so within the chronological flow. Prior to approaching the subject at 0215 hours, guard had observed the subject pacing in the lobby for approximately 10 minutes. Error number 2: using abbreviations and jargon. Your report may be read by police officers, lawyers, judges, insurance adjusters, and site supervisors, none of whom may be familiar with your site-specific abbreviations. Solution: write out all terms in full the first time they appear. After that, you may use standard abbreviations. For example, subject was observed in the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC, mechanical room. Subsequent references can use HVAC. Error number 3: including irrelevant information. Guards sometimes include details that have no bearing on the incident: the weather, the color of the carpet, the brand of shoes the subject was wearing. These details clutter the report and can be used by opposing counsel to suggest you were not focused on relevant observations. Solution: ask yourself, does this detail help identify a person, establish a timeline, or prove an element of the incident? If the answer is no, leave it out. Error number 4: editing or altering notes after the fact. The temptation to clean up your notes or correct a mistake after the fact is strong, especially if you realize an entry could be harmful to your case. Never do this. Altered notes destroy your credibility and can be construed as evidence tampering. Solution: if you discover an error after the fact, do not alter the original entry. Instead, create a new entry on the next available line or page, clearly marked with the current date and time, that states, correction to entry dated, original date, at original time, the subject's vehicle was a blue sedan, not a grey hatchback as previously recorded. Error number 5: writing too much or too little. Striking the right balance in report length is difficult. Novice guards often write too little, omitting critical details. Experienced guards sometimes write too much, burying important facts in excessive narrative. Solution: use the 5 Ws and the H as a checklist. After completing your report, verify that each element is addressed. If a section is missing, add it. If a section contains irrelevant detail, remove it. A well-written report should be comprehensive but concise. Author's reflection: I once reviewed a report written by a new guard that was 3 pages long but contained no mention of the subject's clothing, no description of the damaged property, and no statement from the witness who was standing 10 feet away. The guard had written beautifully about his own feelings, his nervousness, his concern for safety, his decision-making process, but had forgotten to document the actual incident. The report was useless. Facts first. Everything else is secondary. Chapter 3 Review Quiz. Test your understanding of the concepts covered in this chapter. Each question is designed to reflect the type of content you will encounter on your Ontario Security Guard licensing exam. Question 1. Which of the following best describes why a security guard's memo book is considered a legal document? It must be submitted to the employer at the end of every shift. It can be subpoenaed and used as evidence in court proceedings. It is required by the PSISA for all licensed security guards. It serves as the official record of the guard's daily activities. Question 2. A guard writes in their report, the subject seemed nervous and was probably trying to hide something. What is the primary error in this statement? It is written in present tense. It includes subjective interpretation and assumption. It uses first-person perspective. It does not include a timestamp. Question 3. According to the 5Ws and the H framework, which question addresses the sequence of events that led to the incident? Who? Why? How? Where? Question 4. A guard makes a mistake in their memo book while writing an entry. What is the correct procedure for correcting the error? Use correction fluid to cover the mistake and rewrite the correct information. Tear out the page and rewrite the entry on a fresh page. Draw a single line through the error, initial it, and continue writing. Cross out the entire entry and write void across the page. Question 5. Which of the following entries demonstrates proper third-person, past tense writing? I saw the subject enter the restricted area at 2,200 hours. The guard observed the subject entering the restricted area at 2,200 hours. The subject enters the restricted area at 2,200 hours. Observing the subject entering the restricted area at 2,200 hours. Answers: 1B, 2B, 3C, 4C, 5B. Figure mind map. A detailed mind map for Chapter 3, Report Writing and Note-Taking, designed as a professional training aid for Ontario security guards. The central node is report writing and note-taking in bold text inside a hexagon. 6 main branches radiate outward. 1. Legal foundation, containing sub-branches for memo book as evidence, court testimony, contemporaneous record, and bound notebook requirements. 2. Observation principles, containing sub-branches for facts versus interpretation, 5 senses, avoiding bias, and objectivity. 3. 5Ws and H, containing sub-branches for who, what, where, when, why, and how with brief descriptions, for writing style, containing sub-branches for third person, past tense. Eliminating opinion, and factual language. 5. Common errors, containing sub-branches for chronological reverse, abbreviations, irrelevant details, altering notes, and length imbalance. 6. Best practices, containing sub-branches for consistency, verification, transparency, and professionalism. The mind map uses a clean blue and white color scheme with connecting lines and icons including a memo book, gavel, symbolizing court, magnifying glass, pen, and checkmark. Style: professional instructional diagram suitable for security training materials. Chapter 4, Legal Authorities and the Canadian Legal System. Sections. Section 4.1, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, its direct impact on private security. Section 4.2, Key Statutes, the Criminal Code of Canada and the Trespass to Property Act. Section 4.3, Citizens' Arrest, Section for 94 Powers, Limitations, and Legal Consequences. Section 4.4, the Law of Search and Seizure, when and how a security guard may act. Section 4.5, Crime Scene Preservation, Evidence Handling, and an Introduction to Tort Law. Every security guard I've trained over the past 20 years has asked the same question at some point: what happens if I do everything right, and someone still sues me? The answer begins with understanding that your authority as a security professional doesn't come from a uniform or a badge. It comes from specific sections of Canadian law, and those laws come with precise limits. This chapter connects the legal framework introduced in Chapter 2 with the practical realities you'll face on shift. The PSISA tells you who you are as a security professional. The Criminal Code, the Charter, and provincial statutes tell you what you can actually do when situations unfold. Understanding these legal authorities isn't just about passing an exam. It's about protecting yourself from criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and career-ending mistakes. Section 4.1, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, its direct impact on private security. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is part of our Constitution. It sets the boundaries for how the state can treat individuals. Here's the critical distinction you must understand from your first day on the job: the Charter applies directly to government actors, police, corrections officers, and other state agents, not to private security guards. That statement often surprises new guards. Let me explain why it matters. How the Charter applies to you. As a private security professional, you are not a government agent. You work for a private company that contracts with property owners, businesses, or event organizers. The Charter's protections, such as the right against unreasonable search and seizure, Section 8, and the right not to be arbitrarily detained, Section 9, are designed to limit state power, not private action. However, and this is crucial, the Charter still shapes your work in three important ways. When you work with police, if you detain someone at the request of a police officer or act under their direct instruction, you may be considered an agent of the state. At that point, Charter protections apply to your actions. Through the common law, courts have applied Charter values to private security through other legal avenues, particularly tort law. Even if the Charter doesn't directly bind you, a court may still hold you to similar standards of reasonableness. Through provincial regulation, the PSISA Code of Conduct requires you to respect the rights of all persons. What does respect mean in practice? It means behaving as if the Charter applies to you, even when strictly speaking it doesn't. Section 7, the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. This section deserves special attention because it underpins the entire use of force framework we'll explore in Chapter 5. Section 7 guarantees that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, and that these rights cannot be deprived except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. For security guards, this means you cannot arbitrarily restrict someone's freedom. Every detention must be legally justified. You must use the minimum force necessary to achieve a lawful objective. Excessive force violates the principles of fundamental justice. You have a duty to protect life, even when dealing with someone who is breaking the law. Section 8, protection against unreasonable search and seizure. Figure, AI-generated diagram showing a visual comparison of Charter rights as they apply to police versus private security guards. The left side shows a police officer with a clear state actor label, connected to a full list of Charter sections 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The right side shows a security guard with a private actor label, connected to the same sections but with dotted lines and smaller text reading indirect influence through tort law and PSISA. A central note reads, direct application ends when state action begins. The image uses professional, clean lines with blue and grey tones, suitable for a training manual. Again, Section 8 directly limits police, not private security. But courts have developed rules about when private security searches are lawful through other legal principles, primarily the law of trespass, consent, and the criminal code. The practical rule: you can search when you have lawful authority, and that authority comes from one of the sources we'll cover in Section 4.4. Never assume you have search powers simply because you wear a uniform. Section 9, the right not to be arbitrarily detained. This is where many security guards get into trouble. The Charter says no one shall be arbitrarily detained. While this section technically applies to state detention, the concept carries into private security through tort law. If you detain someone without a valid legal reason, such as a proper citizen's arrest or a lawful trespasser removal, you can be sued for false imprisonment. The Charter doesn't directly create that lawsuit, but the principle of no arbitrary detention has been absorbed into the common law standards courts apply to everyone. Section 10, rights upon arrest and detention. Section 10 gives everyone the right to be informed promptly of the reasons for their arrest or detention, retain and instruct counsel without delay, have the validity of their detention determined by habeas corpus. When you make a citizen's arrest, you become the arresting person. Under the criminal code, you have specific duties to deliver the arrested person to a police officer forthwith, immediately. While you may not be required to provide a charter, rights reading, best practice, and sound risk management dictates that you should tell the person why they are being detained. Contact police immediately. Not question them or attempt to obtain a statement. Real-world insight. I once consulted on a case where a security guard detained a shoplifter and then spent 15 minutes trying to get the truth from him before calling police. The Crown prosecutor refused to use the statement in court because it was obtained without proper cautions. Worse, the suspect sued the guard and the security company for false imprisonment and won a significant settlement. The guard had done everything else right, but that 15-minute interrogation was a bridge too far. Section 4.2, Key Statutes, the Criminal Code of Canada and the Trespass to Property Act. Two pieces of legislation will define more than 90% of your interactions with the public. You must know both cold. The Criminal Code of Canada. The Criminal Code is federal legislation that defines criminal offences and procedures across the country. For security guards, the most relevant sections involve theft. Section 322. Theft occurs when someone takes property with the intent to deprive the owner of it, temporarily or permanently. This is the offence you will encounter most frequently in retail and corporate settings. Mischief. Section 430. Mischief involves destroying or damaging property, rendering it dangerous, or interfering with its lawful use. This covers vandalism, graffiti, and tampering. Assault. Section 265. Assault includes the intentional application of force to another person without their consent, or threats of such force. Understanding the legal definition of assault is critical because it also defines when you can use defensive force. Trespassing at night. Section 177. This section makes it an offence to trespass on private property at night without lawful excuse. Note that this is a criminal offence, unlike the provincial trespass laws we'll discuss next. The Trespass to Property Act, Ontario. This provincial statute is your everyday working tool. It governs entry onto private property and gives property owners, and by extension, security guards, specific powers to remove trespassers. Key provisions of the Trespass to Property Act. Provision. What it means for you. The difference between criminal and provincial trespass. Criminal trespass, Section 177 of the Criminal Code, requires nighttime activity and specific criminal intent. Provincial trespass, Trespass to Property Act, is broader, covering any unauthorized entry at any time. Most of your trespass interventions will be under the Provincial Act. Figure, AI-generated flowchart comparing decision pathways for criminal trespass versus provincial trespass in Ontario. The flowchart starts with person on property without consent at the top. Left branch, is it between sunset and sunrise, leads to Criminal Code Section 177 considerations. Right branch, is it any other time, leads to Trespass to Property Act considerations. Both branches converge at can you direct them to leave? Yes, no with subsequent arrest and police notification steps. Clean professional design with color-coded federal, red, and provincial, blue, pathways. Real-world scenario, you are working a night shift at a construction site. You see a person climbing over the fence at 2 a.m. You have authority under both the Trespass to Property Act, trespass on enclosed lands, and the Criminal Code, trespassing at night. Your approach should focus on the provincial offence first, direct the person to leave. If they comply, record the incident and notify the site supervisor. Only escalate to arrest if they refuse or if the circumstances suggest a more serious crime, theft of equipment, vandalism, is occurring. Section 4.3, Citizens Arrest, Section 494 Powers, Limitations, and Legal Consequences. This is the most misunderstood and dangerous power security guards possess. Get this wrong, and you could face criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and the loss of your license. Section 494(1) The basic power. Section 494(1) of the Criminal Code states, anyone may arrest without warrant a person whom he finds committing an indictable offence. Let's break this down word by word. Anyone, this power is available to every Canadian citizen, not just security guards. You have no greater arrest powers than a member of the public. Finds committing, this is the critical limitation. You must actually witness the offense in progress. You cannot arrest someone based on surveillance footage reviewed after the fact, reports from other guards or employees, suspicion or reasonable grounds alone, information from police or other sources. An indictable offense. Indictable offenses are the more serious category of crimes under Canadian law. Theft under $5,000 is a hybrid offense. The Crown can choose to proceed by indictment or summarily, but courts have generally accepted that theft in progress meets the threshold for citizen's arrest. Section 494(2) Arrest by property owner or authorized person. This subsection gives additional powers to property owners and their authorized agents, including security guards. Anyone who is the owner or a person in lawful possession of property, or a person authorized by the owner or by a person in lawful possession of property, may arrest a person whom he finds committing a criminal offense on or in relation to that property. This is broader than Section 494(1). You can arrest for any criminal offense, not just indictable offenses, if it occurs on or relates to the property you are protecting. Section 494(3) Delivery to police. This is the most important part of Section 494. Anyone other than a peace officer who arrests a person without warrant shall forthwith deliver the person to a peace officer. Forthwith means immediately. You cannot hold the person for an extended period. Conduct your own investigation. Attempt to obtain a confession or statement. Take the person to a back room for questioning. You must turn the person over to police as soon as reasonably possible. Limitations on citizen's arrest. Limitation explanation consequence of violation. Figure, AI-generated decision tree for citizen's arrest. Top node, have you witnessed an indictable offense in progress? 3 branches, yes leads to did the offense occur on protected property, then yes leads to make arrest using minimum force, deliver to police immediately. No leads to do not arrest. Document and report to police. Maybe are not sure leads to do not arrest. Call police. Document everything. The tree uses clear visual hierarchy with color-coded go and no-go indicators. Professional infographic style appropriate for training materials. Real-world scenario, you are working loss prevention in a department store. Through a live camera feed, you watch a customer conceal a high-value item in their bag and exit the store without paying. You have witnessed the theft in progress. The offense is theft, an indictable hybrid offense, occurring on the property. You can arrest under Section 494(2). Contrast this scenario, a colleague tells you they saw someone steal an item 2 hours ago while you were on break. You find the person still in the store. You did not witness the offense. You cannot arrest. You can ask them to leave as a trespasser, but you cannot make a citizen's arrest for the theft. Section 4.4 the law of search and seizure, when and how a security guard may act. Search powers are another area where security guards often overreach. The law is clear about your limitations. General rule, no search without authority. As a private citizen, you have no general power to search people or their property. The Charter's Section 8 protection against unreasonable search applies directly to police, but the common law equally protects individuals from unauthorized searches by anyone. Lawful basis for searches by security guards. 1. Search incident to arrest. If you have made a lawful citizen's arrest, you may search the arrested person for weapons that could threaten your safety, evidence related to the offense, items that could be used to escape. This search must be conducted immediately after the arrest, limited in scope to the reasons for the search, reasonable in the circumstances. You cannot use search incident to arrest as an excuse to conduct a general exploratory search or to look for evidence of unrelated offenses. 2. Consent search. If a person freely and voluntarily agrees to be searched, the search is lawful. For consent to be valid, the person must understand what they are consenting to. The consent must be given freely, not under threat or pressure. The person can withdraw consent at any time. Best practice, if you ask for consent, document the request and the person's response. If possible, have a witness. Never imply that the person has no choice. 3. Search based on statutory authority. Some provincial legislation gives specific search powers. For example, the Liquor License Act allows security guards to search for open liquor in certain contexts. The Trespass to Property Act allows you to search a bag or vehicle when there are reasonable grounds to believe the person has stolen property, but only if the person consents or if the search is a condition of entry. 4. Search in plain view. If you are lawfully in a location and see evidence of an offense in plain view, you may seize that evidence without a warrant. You cannot move items, open containers, or otherwise expand the scope of your observation to create plain view. What you cannot do: strip searches or body cavity searches, absolutely prohibited. Only police with specific authorization can conduct these. Forced bag searches without consent. Unless you have made a lawful arrest, you cannot force someone to open their bag. Detaining for the purpose of searching. If you don't have grounds for arrest, you cannot detain someone just to search them. Figure, AI-generated visual matrix showing for search types, incident to arrest, consent, statutory authority, plain view, with columns for legal basis, limitations, documentation required, and risk level, low, mediums, high. The matrix uses a clean grid format with color-coded risk indicators. Professional style suitable for quick reference in training materials. Real-world insight. Early in my career, I watched a colleague lose his license because he conducted a routine bag check on every employee leaving a warehouse. He had been doing it for years without anyone objecting. Then one employee refused, and my colleague tried to physically take the bag. The employee sued, and during the investigation, it came out that no written policy supported the searches, no signs were posted, and employees had never been informed that refusal was an option. The guard was charged with assault and lost his security license. He had the right intention, preventing theft, but he had no legal authority to act. Section 4.5, Crime Scene Preservation, Evidence Handling, and an Introduction to Tort Law. Your role at a crime scene is not to investigate. Your role is to preserve the scene until police arrive. Everything you do in those first critical minutes can make or break a criminal investigation. Crime scene preservation, the golden hour. The first hour after a crime is discovered is called the golden hour in law enforcement. The chances of recovering usable evidence decrease dramatically with every passing minute. Your primary responsibilities: secure the perimeter, establish a physical barrier around the scene using tape, cones, or personnel. Ensure no unauthorized persons enter. Control access, only allow essential personnel, police, paramedics if needed, to enter. Document everyone who enters and leaves. Protect evidence, do not touch, move, or disturb anything unless it is necessary to protect life or preserve evidence from immediate destruction, e.g., a piece of paper blowing away in the wind. Record observations, note the time you arrived, what you saw, who was present, any unusual odors or sounds, and the condition of the scene. Identify and isolate witnesses, keep witnesses separated from each other to prevent them from comparing notes or being influenced by others. What you must not do: do not clean or tidy the scene. Do not touch weapons or potential evidence with bare hands. Do not allow smoking, eating, or drinking near the scene. Do not discuss the scene with unauthorized persons. Do not try to assist by moving items. Figure, AI-generated diagram of a properly secured crime scene. The diagram shows a rectangular room with a doorway entrance marked with red tape. Primary evidence markers, numbered yellow triangles, indicate locations of a knife, a wallet, and a footprint. Guard post is shown at the entrance with a security guard figure. Witness holding area is a separate zone outside the tape perimeter. The diagram uses clean architectural style lines with professional color coding. Text reads, crime scene, do not enter, secure perimeter established. Evidence handling, the chain of custody. If you must handle evidence, and you should avoid it whenever possible, you must maintain the chain of custody. This is a documented record of every person who had possession of the evidence from the moment it was discovered until it is presented in court. Basic evidence handling rules. Wear gloves when handling any evidence. Place evidence in appropriate containers, paper bags for dry evidence, plastic for wet. Label each piece with your initials, the date, time, and location where it was found. Document every transfer of evidence to another person. Store evidence in a secure, locked location. Introduction to tort law. Tort law is the body of law that deals with civil wrongs, harm caused to another person that is not a criminal offense. Understanding tort law is essential because it defines when someone can sue you for your actions on duty. Intentional torts. Tort definition example in security work. Non-intentional torts, negligence. Negligence is the most common basis for lawsuits against security companies and individual guards. To prove negligence, a plaintiff must show duty of care, you owed a duty to the person who was harmed. Breach of duty, you failed to meet the standard of care expected of a reasonable security guard. Causation, your breach directly caused the harm. Damages, the person suffered actual losses, physical injury, financial loss, emotional distress. Duty of care in practice, as a security guard, you owe a duty of care to the people on the property you are protecting. Your employer. Members of the public who could reasonably be affected by your actions. Persons in your custody, if you make an arrest. The standard of care is what a reasonably prudent security guard would do in similar circumstances. This is why following your training, your employer's policies, and the law is so important. It establishes that you met the standard of care. Real-world scenario, you are assigned to patrol a parking garage known for vehicle break-ins. At 2 a.m., you notice you're running behind schedule and decide to skip the 5th floor patrol. A vehicle is broken into on the 5th floor during that time. The owner sues the security company.
The court asks, would a reasonable security guard have patrolled the 5th floor?
The answer is yes. You had a duty of care to the vehicle owners, you breached that duty by skipping the patrol, and that breach caused the loss. You and your employer could be held liable. Chapter 4, Review Quiz. Test your understanding of the legal authorities covered in this chapter. Question 1. You are working security at a shopping mall. A store manager tells you they watched a customer on CCTV place merchandise in a bag and leave without paying 20 minutes ago. You locate the same customer still in the mall. Can you make a citizen's arrest? Yes, because the store manager witnessed the theft. Yes, because theft is an indictable offense. No, because you did not witness the offense yourself. No, because the theft occurred over 10 minutes ago. Question 2. Under section 494(3) of the Criminal Code, after making a citizen's arrest, you must deliver the arrested person to a peace officer. Within 1 hour. Within 2 hours. As soon as is reasonably possible, forthwith. After completing your investigation. Question 3. You ask a person entering a construction site to open their bag for inspection. They refuse. Which of the following is true? You may detain them until police arrive. You may physically open the bag yourself. You cannot force a search without legal grounds for arrest or specific statutory authority. You may search the bag because it is private property. Question 4. Which of the following best describes the relationship between the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and private security guards? The Charter applies directly to all security guards. The Charter applies only when security guards are working with police. The Charter never applies to private security in any circumstance. The Charter applies indirectly through tort law and provincial regulations, and directly when guards act as agents of the state. Question 5. A plaintiff suing a security company for negligence must prove all of the following except: the guard owed a duty of care. The guard breached the duty of care. The guard intended to cause harm. The breach caused damages to the plaintiff. Answer key, 1C, 2C, 3C, for D, 5C. Figure mind map. Create a comprehensive mind map titled Legal Authorities and the Canadian Legal System for Security Guards. The central node is Chapter 4, Legal Authorities. Branch out to 5 main sections. 1. Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms with sub-branches for Section 7, Life, Liberty, Security, Section 8, Search and Seizure, Section 9, Arbitrary Detention, Section 10, Arrest Rights, and a note on a direct versus indirect application. 2. Key statutes with sub-branches for Criminal Code, Theft, Mischief, Assault, Trespassing at Night, and Trespass to Property Act, Entry Prohibition, Direction to Leave, Arrest without Warrant, Use of Force. 3. Citizens Arrest, Section 494, with sub-branches for 494. 1. Basic Power, 494. 2. Property Owner Authority, 494. 3. Delivery to Police, and Limitations, Must Witness, Forthwith, No Dwelling Entry, Reasonable Force, for Search and Seizure with sub-branches for Incident to Arrest, Consent, Statutory Authority, Plain View, and Prohibited Searches. 5. Crime Scene Preservation and Tort Law with sub-branches for Golden Hour, Chain of Custody, Intentional Torts, Assault, Battery, False Imprisonment, Trespass, Malicious Prosecution, and Negligence, Duty of Care, Breach, Causation, Damages. Use color coding: blue for Charter, green for Statutes, red for Citizens Arrest, orange for Search, purple for Crime Scene or Tort. Include icons: gavel for Statutes, handcuffs for Arrest, magnifying glass for Search, shield for Crime Scene, scales for Tort. The mind map should be suitable for a training manual reference page, clean and professional layout. Chapter 5, Use of Force Theory and Effective Communications. Sections. Section 5.1, the National Use of Force Framework, a model for decision-making. Section 5.2, Situational Assessment and Selecting a Legally Justifiable Response. Section 5.3, Tactical Communications, Verbal De-escalation as the Primary Intervention Tool. Section 5.4, Managing High-Risk Populations, Intoxicated, Angry, or Uncooperative Individuals. Section 5.5, Critical Safety Concerns, Positional Asphyxia and the Dangers of Corridor Confinement. I remember my first real confrontation as a security guard. A man twice my size, eyes wild with rage, screaming obscenities in a hospital emergency waiting room. My heart pounded. My training kicked in. And I said nothing for 3 full seconds, just breathed, assessed, and chose my words with care. That moment taught me something no textbook ever could: the most powerful weapon a security professional carries isn't on their belt. It's in their mouth. This chapter explores the delicate balance between authority and restraint. You will learn when to act, when to speak, and when to simply wait. The National Use of Force Framework provides the structure. Your judgment provides the soul. Section 5.1, the National Use of Force Framework, a model for decision-making. Every security guard in Canada must understand one foundational truth: use of force is not a linear progression from words to weapons. It is a dynamic, fluid decision-making process that changes with every variable in front of you. The National Use of Force Framework, NUF, was developed by the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police and has been adopted across the security industry as the standard model for assessing and responding to resistance. It is not a checklist. It is a thinking tool, a way to evaluate situations in real time and choose responses that are both effective and legally defensible. The core principle: proportionality. At the heart of the framework lies a single question: is my response proportional to the threat I am facing? Proportionality means your actions must match the level of resistance or risk you encounter. You cannot escalate faster than the situation demands. You cannot use a physical intervention when a verbal command would suffice. The law will judge your actions based on what a reasonable person, with your training and in your exact circumstances, would have done. Figure: a diagram showing the National Use of Force Framework as a circular model with 4 quadrants: subject behavior, top left; situational factors, top right; officer presence, option, bottom left; and outcome, bottom right. The central circle reads assess, plan, act. Arrows connect all quadrants in a continuous loop, emphasizing dynamic decision-making. Use a clean, professional style with blue and gray tones suitable for a training manual. The 4 components of the framework. Situational factors. Every interaction begins with assessment. Consider the subject's size, age, gender, physical condition, and emotional state. Consider the environment. Is it dark, crowded, slippery, confined? Are there weapons visible or suspected? What about your own limitations, fatigue, stress, physical condition? Subject behavior. The framework classifies subject behavior into categories ranging from cooperative to assaultive. A cooperative person requires minimal intervention. An actively assaultive person may require a more significant response. Your job is to match your response to the behavior, not to assume the worst from the outset. Officer presence and options. This quadrant covers everything you bring to the interaction: your uniform, your voice, your body language, your training, and your equipment. The lowest level is simply presence. Your appearance alone can de-escalate many situations. The highest level involves physical intervention or weapon use, which must be reserved for genuine threats. Outcome. Every action produces a result. The outcome must be continually reassessed. If your verbal commands are working, you stay at that level. If they fail, you may need to escalate. If the subject complies, you must de-escalate immediately. The framework is a loop, not a ladder. The continuous assessment cycle. The NUF is not a one-time evaluation. You must constantly re-evaluate as the situation evolves. A subject who was calm 30 seconds ago may suddenly become aggressive. A subject who was fighting may suddenly surrender. Your response must shift with each change. I once watched a seasoned guard handle a drunk, aggressive man outside a bar. The guard stood still, hands visible, voice calm, and simply said, "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to make sure you get home safe." The man stopped, blinked, and started crying. That guard had assessed, planned, and acted, using presence and words alone to achieve a peaceful outcome. Section 5.2, Situational Assessment and Selecting a Legally Justifiable Response. Situational assessment is the bridge between theory and action. You can memorize the NUF until it echoes in your dreams, but if you cannot read a room, read a person, and read the risks, that knowledge is useless. The OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. Military strategist John Boyd developed the OODA loop to describe decision-making under pressure. It applies perfectly to security work. Observe, gather information through all your senses. What do you see, hear, and smell? Is the subject clenching their fists? Are they sweating? Is their voice rising or falling? What does the environment tell you about escape routes, hidden dangers, or witnesses? Orient, fit what you observe into your training and experience. Does this behavior match patterns you have seen before? What does your gut tell you, and is your gut informed by real knowledge or by fear? Decide, choose a response based on your orientation. Verbal de-escalation? Physical presence? Retreat and call for backup? The decision must be made consciously, not reflexively. Execute your decision with confidence and clarity. Hesitation can be as dangerous as overreaction. Legal justification, the reasonable person standard. Your use of force will be judged by one question: would another reasonably trained security guard, facing the exact same circumstances, have done what you did? This is not about perfection. It is about reasonableness. Courts understand that split-second decisions are made under stress. They do not expect you to be clairvoyant. They expect you to be trained, thoughtful, and proportional. Factors that support legal justification include the severity of the threat, whether the subject was actively resisting or merely non-compliant, whether you attempted verbal de-escalation first, whether you had time to call for backup, whether you could have safely withdrawn instead of engaging. The escalation and de-escalation continuum. Think of use of force as a dimmer switch, not a light switch. You do not jump from verbal commands to physical restraint without passing through intermediate stages. A typical escalation continuum looks like this. Professional presence, standing tall, uniform visible, calm demeanor. Verbal commands, clear, direct instructions delivered with authority. Verbal de-escalation, empathetic communication aimed at reducing tension. Soft hands, guiding, blocking, or light physical contact. Hard hands, strikes or defensive techniques. Intermediate weapons, baton, handcuffs, or other approved tools. Lethal force, reserved for situations where there is imminent risk of death or grievous bodily harm. Crucially, you can move down this continuum as quickly as you move up. A subject who stops fighting must immediately receive a lower level of response. Section 5.3, Tactical Communications, Verbal De-escalation as the primary intervention tool. If you take only one lesson from this chapter, let it be this: your voice is your most powerful tool. It costs nothing. It leaves no marks. It cannot be used against you in court. And when used correctly, it resolves more situations than any baton or restraint ever could. Why verbal de-escalation works? Human beings are wired for connection. Even in moments of extreme agitation, a calm, authoritative voice can penetrate the fog of emotion. The brain's amygdala, the fear center, can be overridden by the prefrontal cortex if given enough time and the right cues. Verbal de-escalation buys that time. The LEAPS communication model. The LEAPS model, developed by the United States Department of Justice and widely adopted in Canadian security training, provides a framework for effective de-escalation. Listen. Active listening means giving the subject your full attention. Nod. Make eye contact. Do not interrupt. Let them vent. Often, people escalate because they feel unheard. Your willingness to listen can diffuse that tension. Empathize. Acknowledge their feelings without agreeing with their actions. Say, I understand you're frustrated, not your right to be angry. Empathy disarms defensiveness. Ask open-ended questions to gather information and encourage the subject to think. What happened that made you feel this way? What would you like to see happen here? Questions shift the brain from reactive to reflective mode. Paraphrase. Repeat back what you heard in your own words. So what I'm hearing is that you feel the property manager ignored your complaints for months. Is that correct? Paraphrasing shows you were listening and gives the subject a chance to correct any misunderstandings. Summarize. End the interaction by summarizing what was agreed upon. Okay, so you're going to wait here while I call the property manager. If he doesn't arrive in 10 minutes, we'll discuss next steps. Does that work for you? Verbal de-escalation techniques in practice. Use a calm, low tone. A lower pitch conveys authority and control. A high, fast pitch conveys fear or aggression. Match volume to environment. Speak loudly enough to be heard, but not so loud that you sound confrontational. If the subject is shouting, lower your voice further. They will often lower theirs to hear you. Avoid trigger words. Words like calm down, you need to, and rules are rules often escalate situations. Instead, say, I want to help you resolve this, or let's find a solution together. Give choices. People who feel trapped often lash out. Offering even small choices. Would you like to sit here or stand by the door? Restores a sense of control. Use the subject's name. Personalizing the interaction reduces anonymity and increases the likelihood of cooperation. When verbal de-escalation fails. Figure, a 2-panel illustration showing a security guard interacting with an agitated individual. In panel 1, the guard stands rigidly with crossed arms, speaking in a loud, confrontational manner while the subject clenches fists and leans forward aggressively. In panel 2, the same guard stands with open body language, palms visible, using a calm, low tone while the subject's posture relaxes slightly. The caption reads, "Body language matters as much as words." Verbal de-escalation is not magic. Some individuals are too intoxicated, too mentally ill, or too determined to be reached by words alone. When verbal attempts fail, or when the subject becomes physically aggressive, you must be prepared to escalate your response while continuing to communicate. Even during physical interventions, keep talking. I am placing my hand on your arm to guide you to the chair. Please remain calm. These verbal cues maintain transparency and provide a record that can be referenced later. Section 5.4 Managing high-risk populations, intoxicated, angry, or uncooperative individuals. Some of the most challenging encounters in security work involve individuals who are intoxicated, experiencing mental health crises, or simply unwilling to cooperate. These populations require specialized approaches that prioritize safety while respecting dignity. Intoxicated individuals. Alcohol and drugs impair judgment, coordination, and emotional regulation. An intoxicated person may be unpredictable, aggressive, or suddenly compliant. They may not remember your interactions the next day. Approach strategies. Maintain greater physical distance than usual. Intoxicated individuals have slower reaction times but can be unpredictably strong. Speak slowly and clearly, using short sentences. Avoid complex reasoning or negotiation. Intoxicated brains cannot process it. Watch for signs of medical distress, vomiting, unconsciousness, irregular breathing. Never turn your back on an intoxicated person. Call for medical assistance if there is any concern about their physical condition. I once watched a colleague try to reason with a man who had consumed an entire bottle of vodka. The guard explained the trespass notice 3 times, each time more slowly. The man nodded, thanked him, and immediately forgot. The guard learned that night that some situations cannot be resolved through conversation, only through patience and backup. Angry individuals. Anger is often a secondary emotion masking fear, frustration, or pain. The angry person may be lashing out at you because you are the nearest target for a lifetime of grievances. Approach strategies. Do not take the anger personally, you are a symbol, not a cause. Validate the emotion while setting boundaries. I can see you're very upset. I want to help, but I need you to lower your voice so we can talk. Give them space to vent without interruption. Do not match their volume or intensity. Be prepared to disengage if the anger escalates to physical threats. Document everything. Angry individuals often file complaints. Uncooperative individuals. Some people simply refuse to comply. They may be exercising what they believe to be their rights, testing your authority, or acting on principle. Approach strategies. Explain the reason for your request clearly. I'm asking you to leave because this is private property and the store owner has revoked your invitation. Distinguish between legal rights and site policy. I understand you disagree with the policy. That's between you and the property owner. Right now, I need you to comply with it. Offer alternatives. If you leave now, you're welcome to return tomorrow. If you refuse, I will have to call the police. Stay calm and professional even when provoked. If the person is not a threat and is simply refusing to leave, you may need to wait for police rather than attempt physical removal. Individuals in mental health crisis. Mental health calls are among the most complex and sensitive situations you will encounter. These individuals may be paranoid, hallucinating, or experiencing extreme emotional distress. They may not recognize you as a helper. Approach strategies. Approach slowly, with hands visible. Speak gently and avoid sudden movements. Ask simple, direct questions. What is your name? Are you feeling safe right now? Do not argue with delusions. Acknowledge their reality without endorsing it. I understand you believe someone is following you. I'm here to keep you safe. Look for medical alert bracelets or identification indicating conditions like diabetes, epilepsy, or psychiatric diagnoses. Prioritize getting professional medical or mental health support over enforcement. Remember that you are not a mental health professional. Your role is to keep the person safe until help arrives. Section 5.5 Critical Safety Concerns, Positional Asphyxia and the Dangers of Corridor Confinement. This section may save a life. Read it carefully. Positional asphyxia occurs when a person's body position prevents them from breathing adequately. It can lead to brain damage and death within minutes. It is a leading cause of death during restraint incidents, and it is almost entirely preventable. How positional asphyxia happens. When a person is restrained face down, prone position, especially with pressure applied to their back, their diaphragm cannot expand fully. Their lungs cannot fill with air. Their oxygen levels drop. Their carbon dioxide levels rise. Add to this any of the following risk factors: obesity, intoxication or drug impairment, physical exhaustion from struggling, pre-existing respiratory conditions like asthma, excited delirium, a state of extreme agitation often linked to drug use or mental illness. The combination is deadly. The danger of corridor confinement. Corridor confinement refers to the practice of cornering a subject in a hallway, room, or confined space. This creates multiple dangers. The subject feels trapped and may fight harder to escape. You have limited escape routes if the subject becomes violent. Other people cannot easily assist or observe. The confined space increases the risk of positional asphyxia if restraint becomes necessary. I once responded to a call where 3 guards had cornered a combative individual in a narrow storage room. The subject was already exhausted from a prolonged struggle. Had we continued restraining him face down in the confined space, the outcome could have been tragic. We made the decision to back out, give him space, and wait for police. It took longer, but everyone went home that night. Prevention strategies. Never restrain a subject face down for longer than absolutely necessary. Once handcuffed, roll the person onto their side into the recovery position. Monitor their breathing continuously. Avoid applying pressure to the back, neck, or chest. If you must use physical restraint, use holds that control limbs without compressing the torso. Watch for warning signs. If the subject stops struggling suddenly, becomes silent, or appears to be sleeping, check for breathing immediately. Silence during restraint is not compliance, it may be hypoxia. Do not sit on or kneel on a subject's back. This technique has killed people. It is never justified. Assess before you act. Before entering a confined space to detain a subject, ask yourself whether the risk of injury, to the subject, to yourself, and to your colleagues, is worth the benefit of immediate apprehension. The legal consequences of positional asphyxia. Deaths from positional asphyxia during restraint have resulted in criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and license revocations across Canada. Even if you are not charged criminally, the emotional trauma of being involved in a death, and the public scrutiny that follows, will stay with you forever. Your employer, the courts, and the public expect you to know better. With this training, you now do. Real-world scenario: the bar fight that almost went wrong. It was 1:45 a.m. on a Saturday. A security team of 3 worked a busy downtown bar. A patron, intoxicated and angry after being cut off, began shouting at staff and shoving other customers. The lead guard approached with hands visible and a calm tone. "Sir, I need you to step outside with me." The patron responded by pushing the guard and swinging a punch. The guard blocked, and the team moved in to restrain him. They brought him to the ground face down, handcuffed him, and held him there while waiting for police. 2 minutes passed. The patron stopped struggling. Then he stopped moving altogether. One of the guards noticed and said, "He's not breathing." They immediately rolled him onto his side. He was unresponsive. They called emergency medical services and began first aid. The patron survived, but the incident resulted in a police investigation, a lawsuit, and the termination of all 3 guards. What should have happened differently? The guards should have monitored breathing from the moment of restraint. They should have rolled the patron onto his side immediately after handcuffing. They should have recognized the risk factors: intoxication, exhaustion, and prone positioning. The lead guard should have considered whether restraint was necessary at all, or whether backing off and waiting for police was a safer option. Lessons learned. Positional asphyxia can kill in minutes. Restraint is not the end of the interaction, monitoring is. Verbal de-escalation should always be the first and most persistent intervention. No arrest is worth a life. Chapter Summary. The National Use of Force Framework provides a structured approach to decision-making in potentially violent situations. It emphasizes proportionality, continuous assessment, and de-escalation as the preferred outcome. Your voice is your primary intervention tool. The LEAPS model, listen, empathize, ask, paraphrase, summarize, offers a practical framework for verbal de-escalation that resolves most situations without physical contact. Intoxicated, angry, and mentally ill individuals require specialized approaches that prioritize safety and dignity. Never assume that physical intervention is the only option. Positional asphyxia and corridor confinement are critical safety concerns that can lead to death during restraint. Prevention requires constant vigilance, proper positioning, and a willingness to disengage when the risks outweigh the benefits. Review Quiz, Chapter 5. Question 1. What is the single most important principle governing the use of force in Canadian security work? A. Always escalate to the highest level of force immediately. B. Use only the force that is proportional to the threat. C. Never use force unless you have backup. D. Wait for police before taking any action. Question 2. Which element of the LEAPS model involves repeating what the subject said in your own words? A. Listen. B. Empathize. C. Paraphrase. D. Summarize. Question 3. A subject you are restraining face down stops moving and becomes silent. What should you do? A. Apply more pressure to ensure they remain subdued. B. Check their breathing immediately and roll them onto their side. C. Wait for police to arrive before checking on them. D. Release the handcuffs and back away. Question 4. Why is corridor confinement dangerous during a restraint situation? A. It makes it harder for witnesses to see what is happening. B. It limits escape routes for both the subject and the security guard. C. It increases the risk of positional asphyxia. D. All of the above. Question 5. If verbal de-escalation fails and a subject becomes physically aggressive, what should you do? A. Immediately escalate to physical restraint. B. Continue talking while considering whether escalation is necessary. C. Turn and run away. D. Call the police and do nothing else. Answer key, 1B, 2C, 3B, for D, 5B. Figure mind map. A radial mind map with use of force theory and effective communications at the center. Main branches extend to National Use of Force Framework, with sub-branches for situational factors, subject behavior, officer presence, outcome, and proportionality, situational assessment, with sub-branches for OODA loop, reasonable person standard, and escalation de-escalation continuum, tactical communications, with sub-branches for LEAPS model, verbal de-escalation techniques, and trigger words to avoid. High-risk populations, with sub-branches for intoxicated, angry, uncooperative, and mental health crisis, and critical safety concerns, with sub-branches for positional asphyxia, corridor confinement, and prevention strategies. Use clean, professional design with color-coded branches and simple icons representing voice, shield, and medical cross. Chapter 6, Health, Safety, and Emergency Response. Sections. Section 6.1, Occupational Hazards and Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System, WHMIS, Fundamentals. Section 6.2, Fire Safety, Understanding Alarm Panels, Evacuation Protocols, and Warden Duties. Section 6.3, Bomb Threat Management, Telephone Protocols, Threat Assessment, and Search Procedures. Section 6.4, Suspicious Packages, Elevator Entrapments, and Medical Emergencies, Standard Operating Procedures. Section 6.5, Personal Protective Equipment and Scene Safety for Responding Security Personnel. I've walked through the aftermath of a dozen emergencies that could have been prevented, or at least better managed, if someone had understood the basics covered in this chapter. A fire alarm that was ignored because it's always a false alarm. A bomb threat call that went unrecorded because no one had a pen. A medical emergency where the first responder forgot to check their own safety before rushing in. These aren't failures of courage. They're failures of preparedness. Your ability to handle emergencies, health, safety, fire, and security threats will define your reputation as a professional. This chapter gives you the protocols, the thinking frameworks, and the practical steps to respond with calm authority when everyone around you is panicking. Section 6.1 Occupational Hazards and Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System, WHMIS, Fundamentals. Every site you work carries hidden dangers. Some are obvious: construction zones, chemical storage areas, loading docks. Others are subtle: cleaning supplies under a sink, an aging HVAC system, a battery charging station in a maintenance room. Your job requires you to recognize these hazards before they become incidents. The Occupational Health and Safety Act, OHSA, of Ontario gives you 3 fundamental rights as a worker. The right to know about workplace hazards and receive training. The right to participate in health and safety activities. The right to refuse work that is unsafe. These rights apply to you as a security professional just as they apply to any other employee on site. Understanding WHMIS. The Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System, WHMIS, is Canada's national standard for communicating information about hazardous products. It aligns with the Globally Harmonized System, GHS, and is legally required in all Canadian workplaces. As a security guard, you are not expected to be a chemical expert. But you must be able to recognize WHMIS symbols on containers and storage areas. Understand the information on safety data sheets, SDS. Identify hazards during patrols and inspections. Respond appropriately if a spill or exposure occurs. The 9 WHMIS hazard symbols you must memorize. Symbol classification: example products. Author's reflection: I once responded to a chemical spill in a retail store where a cleaner had mixed bleach with ammonia. The employee didn't realize they were creating toxic chloramine gas. Within minutes, 3 people were struggling to breathe. The WHMIS training that guard had received and ignored would have prevented everything. You cannot afford to treat this as just another module. Safety data sheets, SDS. Every hazardous product on a work site must have an accompanying safety data sheet. These documents contain 16 standardized sections that provide critical information. Section 1, Product Identifier and Supplier Details. Section 2, Hazard Identification. Section 4, First Aid Measures. Section 5, Firefighting Measures. Section 6, Accidental Release Measures. Section 7, Handling and Storage. As a security guard, your most important sections are those dealing with first aid and accidental releases. If a chemical spill occurs, you may need to direct people away from the area, and the SDS tells you exactly what risks are present. Key rule: never attempt to clean up a hazardous material spill unless you are specifically trained and equipped to do so. Your role is to isolate the area, notify the appropriate personnel, and ensure emergency services are contacted. Common occupational hazards for security guards. Beyond WHMIS, your daily work exposes you to specific risks. Slips, trips, and falls, wet floors, uneven surfaces, poor lighting. Workplace violence, confrontations with aggressive individuals. Vehicle incidents, parking lot patrols, mobile patrols, traffic control. Ergonomic injuries, prolonged standing, poor posture during report writing. Environmental exposure, extreme temperatures, poor air quality. Fatigue, night shifts, long hours, irregular schedules. Your duty of care extends to yourself. You cannot protect others if you are injured. Section 6.2, Fire Safety, Understanding Alarm Panels, Evacuation Protocols, and Warden Duties. Fire is one of the most immediate and dangerous threats you will encounter. Unlike a medical emergency or a security breach, fire spreads exponentially. Every second of hesitation multiplies the damage and risk to life. Your role in fire safety has three components: prevention, detection, and response. Understanding fire alarm systems. Fire alarm panels are the command centers for a building's fire protection system. You will encounter several common types. Conventional panels divide a building in two zones. When an alarm activates, the panel indicates which zone triggered it, but not the specific device. These are common in smaller buildings. Addressable panels identify the exact device that activated specific smoke detector, pull station, or sprinkler flow switch. These are standard in larger commercial and residential buildings. Analog addressable panels provide additional data about the device's status, including sensitivity levels and maintenance needs. Regardless of the type, you must be able to identify alarm signals, fire alarm versus trouble signal versus supervisory signal. Silence the alarm if trained and authorized. Read the display to determine the source. Reset the system after the event is cleared. Communicate with the fire department upon arrival. Critical rule: never reset a fire alarm panel without first investigating the cause and receiving authorization from the fire department or site management. Fire alarm system components. Figure: a detailed schematic of a commercial fire alarm system showing the main control panel in the center, with labeled connections to smoke detectors, heat detectors, manual pull stations, sprinkler flow switches, horn and strobe devices, and the fire department connection. The diagram uses color coding: red for alarm devices, blue for notification devices, green for supervisory devices, and orange for the main panel. Arrows indicate signal flow from detection devices to the panel and from the panel to notification devices. A legend at the bottom explains each symbol. The visual style is technical and clean, suitable for a training manual, with a white background and professional line work. Evacuation protocols. When a fire alarm sounds, your immediate priority is life safety. Property is replaceable. People are not. General evacuation procedures. RACE is the standard acronym for response. Rescue anyone in immediate danger. Alert others and activate the alarm. Confine the fire by closing doors. Evacuate the area or extinguish if safe and trained. Know your zones. Every building has designated evacuation zones and assembly areas. You must know these before an emergency occurs. Assist vulnerable populations, elderly individuals, people with disabilities, and children may need additional assistance. Do not use elevators. Fires can affect elevator systems and create deadly traps. Direct, don't chase. If someone refuses to evacuate, note their location and report it to the fire department. You are not authorized to physically force compliance. Fire warden duties. In larger facilities, security guards often serve as fire wardens during evacuations. Your responsibilities include sweeping your assigned area to ensure everyone has evacuated, checking restrooms, storage rooms, and enclosed offices, reporting your zone status to the incident commander, ensuring no one re-enters until the all-clear is given, accounting for visitors and contractors who may not know evacuation routes. Practice, at least twice a year, walk every evacuation route on your site. Identify blocked exits, broken lighting, or storage obstructions. Document and report these hazards. Section 6.3, Bomb Threat Management, Telephone Protocols, Threat Assessment, and Search Procedures. Bomb threats are among the most stressful events you will handle. They create panic, disrupt operations, and demand split-second decisions with life or death consequences. Your first responsibility is to remain calm. Panic is contagious. So is composure. Receiving a bomb threat by telephone. The majority of bomb threats are delivered by phone. If you receive one, your actions in the first 30 seconds determine the quality of the investigation. Immediate actions. Stay calm. Keep the caller on the line as long as possible. Signal to a colleague. If possible, Have another guard listen in or notify authorities. Take notes. Write down every word the caller says. The following checklist is critical. Memorize it. Practice it. Question to ask purpose. Listen for background noises, traffic, trains, or aircraft, other voices or music, machinery or industrial sounds, echoes or room acoustics. Assess the caller's speech, accent, dialect, or speech impediments, emotional state, angry, calm, joking, level of education or sophistication, age and gender. After hanging up, do not use your phone, it may interfere with call tracing. Notify your supervisor immediately. Contact law enforcement following site protocol. Complete a detailed report while the conversation is fresh in your mind. Figure a full-page template of a bomb threat call checklist, formatted as a fillable form with the following fields: date, time, call duration, phone number called, caller's name, if given, exact wording of threat, questions asked and answers received, background noises, checkboxes for traffic, voices, music, machinery, echo, other, caller's voice characteristics, checkboxes for calm, angry, excited, slow, rapid, lisp, nasal, raspy, deep, high-pitched, disguised, accent, threat language. Checkboxes for well-spoken, incoherent, taped, irrational, profane, sex of caller, age estimate, categories, child, teenager, adult, elderly, signature line, and date. The template uses a professional, clean layout with ample space for handwritten notes. Threat assessment. Not every bomb threat is credible. Your job, in consultation with law enforcement and site management, is to assess the level of risk. Factors that increase credibility. Specificity, the caller provides detailed location and timing information. Target selection, the location has symbolic, political, or strategic value. Caller behavior, the caller appears knowledgeable about explosives. Pattern recognition, multiple threats targeting similar locations. Intelligence, pre-existing threat information or warnings. Factors that decrease credibility. Vague or contradictory information. Obvious attempts at disruption, during exams, inspections, or critical deadlines. Teenage or juvenile speech patterns. Threats made using profanity or emotional outbursts. Remember, you are not a bomb disposal expert. Your assessment informs decisions, but the final call on evacuation rests with site management and law enforcement. Search procedures. If a search is ordered, you will likely be involved. Your role is systematic observation, not handling suspicious objects. Search methodology. Divide the area into zones. Use a grid pattern for systematic coverage. Search from the outside in. Start at the perimeter of the designated area and work toward the center. Use two-person teams. One searches while the other observes and records. Look for anomalies, objects that don't belong, freshly disturbed areas, unusual odors, wires or tape exposed. Do not touch suspicious objects. Do not move, cover, or submerge them. Areas of focus. Public washrooms, common concealment locations. Garbage bins and recycling containers. Ceiling tiles and suspended ceilings. Behind wall-mounted fixtures and artwork. Under seating in waiting areas. Vehicle undercarriages in parking areas. Delivery and loading dock areas. What to report? Exact location of the suspicious object. Description, size, shape, color, markings. Any unusual sounds, ticking, hissing, or odors. Time of discovery. Any witnesses present. Critical rule: if you find a suspicious package or device, evacuate immediately and establish a 300-meter perimeter if possible. Do not use radios or cell phones within 100 meters of the suspected device. Section 6.4 Suspicious packages, elevator entrapments, and medical emergencies, standard operating procedures. Beyond major emergencies like fires and bomb threats, your daily work involves responding to smaller, but still critical, incidents. Each requires a specific protocol. Suspicious packages. Not every unattended bag is a bomb. But every unattended bag must be treated seriously until proven otherwise. Indicators of a suspicious package. Foreign origin, address labels from unknown locations. Excessive postage indicates the sender bypassed postal systems. Misspelled names or titles, attempts to appear legitimate. Oily stains or discoloration, potential chemical content. Protruding wires or foil with improvised device components. Lopsided or uneven weight distribution, unusual contents. Excessive tape or wrapping, attempts to conceal contents. Restrictive markings, confidential, personal, do not X-ray. Response protocol. Do not touch, move, or open the package. Evacuate the immediate area, minimum 50 meters indoors, 300 meters outdoors. Isolate the area using barriers or caution tape. Notify your supervisor and contact law enforcement. Document everything: time found, location, description, witnesses. Do not use radios or cell phones near the suspected device. Elevator entrapments. Elevator entrapments are common and rarely dangerous. But they create significant anxiety for trapped individuals, and that anxiety can escalate into panic. When you receive an entrapment call, communicate with the trapped individuals through the elevator intercom or through the door. Identify yourself clearly: this is security. We are aware you are trapped. Help is on the way. Ask critical questions. How many people are inside? Any medical conditions, injuries, or mobility issues? How long have you been trapped? Any unusual smells, sounds, or sensations? Reassure them that you are in contact with the elevator service company. Warn them not to attempt to force the doors open. What you should not do. Never attempt to pry the doors open, you can cause serious injury. Never attempt to climb through the top hatch, elevators can fall. Never allow trapped individuals to force exit, the elevator may restart unexpectedly. While waiting for the elevator technician, stay in communication with those trapped. Inform them of estimated wait times. Keep other people away from the elevator doors. Be prepared for medical issues, claustrophobia, anxiety attacks. Medical emergencies. Your primary role in medical emergencies is to protect life until emergency medical services, EMS, arrive. You are not a paramedic, but you are often the first trained responder on scene. The emergency scene management, ESM, approach. Scene survey, assess for hazards before approaching. Primary survey, check for life-threatening conditions, airway, breathing, circulation. Activate EMS, call 911 immediately for serious conditions. Secondary survey, check for non-life-threatening injuries. Ongoing care, monitor and reassure until help arrives. When to call 911 immediately. Unconscious or unresponsive individual. Severe bleeding that won't stop. Difficulty breathing or no breathing. Chest pain or pressure. Severe allergic reaction. Signs of stroke, facial drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Suspected overdose. Seizure lasting more than 5 minutes. Major trauma, falls, vehicle incidents, violence. Your legal protection. Under Ontario's Good Samaritan Act, individuals who voluntarily provide emergency first aid are protected from liability unless they commit gross negligence. This protection extends to security guards acting within their training and scope. Key principle: do only what you are trained to do. Doing nothing can be negligence, but doing something dangerous beyond your training can also create liability. Section 6.5, Personal Protective Equipment and Scene Safety for Responding Security Personnel. The most important rule in emergency response is this: you cannot help others if you become a victim yourself. Every emergency scene has hazards. Your job is to identify and mitigate those hazards before you, or anyone else, enters the area. Personal protective equipment, PPE. The type of PPE you need depends on the nature of the emergency and your site's risk assessment. Basic PPE for daily patrol. High visibility vest, essential for parking lots, roadways, and low light conditions. Sturdy footwear, non-slip soles, steel toe options for industrial sites. Gloves, cut-resistant or latex anitrile for medical responses. Flashlight, reliable light source for power outages and dark areas. Radio or communication device, maintain contact with dispatch. Specialized PPE for specific emergencies. Emergency type required PPE. Scene safety assessment. Before entering any emergency scene, use the scene mnemonic. Stop and assess. What do you see, hear, smell? Check for hazards, electrical, chemical, structural, biological. Evaluate your capabilities. Do you have the training and equipment? Number of victims, one or multiple. Are there bystanders at risk? Execute your plan, act or wait for additional resources. Scene management for security personnel. When you arrive at any emergency scene, your immediate tasks are: establish scene control, use barriers, tape, or your presence to keep bystanders away. Identify yourself, security, stay back, please. Call for backup, notify dispatch or your supervisor of the situation. Preserve evidence, do not disturb the scene unnecessarily. Manage witnesses, keep them separated and calm. Liaise with emergency services, guide responders to the exact location. Scene reassessment. Emergencies are dynamic. A situation that was safe 30 seconds ago may become hazardous. Continually reassess. Has the environment changed? Fire spreading, structural sounds, odors. Are new hazards appearing? Leaking fluids, exposed wires, approaching traffic. Is the victim's condition changing? Deteriorating consciousness, breathing changes. Are there threats from the public? Hostile bystanders, media intrusion. Author's reflection: I once watched a security guard run into a smoke-filled room without checking the source of the smoke first. It turned out to be a chemical reaction, not a fire. He inhaled toxic fumes and ended up in the hospital alongside the person he was trying to help. His courage was admirable. His judgment was not. Scene safety isn't cowardice, it's professionalism. Documentation and reporting after emergencies. Every emergency response must be documented. Your report becomes the official record of what happened, who responded, and what actions were taken. Essential elements of an emergency report: date, time, and location of the incident. Type of emergency: fire, medical, bomb threat, etc. Sequence of events in chronological order. Actions taken by you and other responders. Personnel involved: security, EMS, fire department, police. Injuries or damages reported. Witness information and statements. Final disposition: scene cleared, building reopened, investigation ongoing. Chain of custody for evidence. If you collect any physical evidence during an emergency, suspicious package, drug paraphernalia, weapon, you must maintain an unbroken chain of custody. Record when and where you found the evidence. Mark the evidence with your initials and date. Secure the evidence in a locked container. Document every transfer to another person. Testify if required in court. Chapter summary. Health, safety, and emergency response form the backbone of your daily responsibilities as a security professional. You began this chapter understanding the occupational hazards that exist on every site and the WHMIS system that helps you identify chemical dangers. You learned how to read fire alarm panels, execute evacuations, and serve as a fire warden. Bomb threats demanded your attention for their specific telephone protocols and search procedures, while suspicious packages, elevator entrapments, and medical emergencies required clear standard operating procedures. Finally, you covered the personal protective equipment and scene safety principles that ensure you can help others without becoming a victim yourself. Every shift brings the possibility of an emergency. Your training determines whether you become part of the problem or part of the solution. Review quiz. Question 1. During a routine patrol, you discover a chemical spill in a storage room. According to WHMIS protocols, what is your first action? A. Locate the safety data sheet to identify the chemical. B. Begin cleaning the spill to prevent further contamination. C. Evacuate the immediate area and isolate the zone. D. Contact your supervisor before taking any action. Answer: C. Your first priority is to protect life. Evacuate the area and isolate it to prevent others from being exposed. Only then should you gather information and notify the appropriate personnel. Question 2. You receive a bomb threat by telephone. The caller is speaking rapidly and sounds angry. Which of the following actions is most critical? A. Immediately hang up and call your supervisor. B. Keep the caller on the line and signal a colleague to notify authorities. C. Ask the caller to repeat the threat 3 times. D. Transfer the call to law enforcement directly. Answer: B. Your priority is to gather as much information as possible while the caller is on the line. Signal a colleague to begin notifications and use the bomb threat checklist to capture details. Question 3. A fire alarm activates in a commercial building. The fire alarm panel indicates an alarm on the 3rd floor, Zone 4. You have not yet investigated. What should you do first? A. Reset the alarm panel to silence the noise. B. Proceed to Zone 4 to investigate the cause. C. Call the fire department immediately. D. Announce an evacuation over the public address system. Answer: D. When a fire alarm activates, you initiate evacuation protocols immediately. You can investigate while the evacuation is underway, but you do not wait to confirm the threat before activating life safety measures. Question 4. You are responding to an elevator entrapment with one person inside. The trapped individual is anxious and asking you to pry the doors open. What is your correct response? A. Attempt to pry the doors open using a crowbar from the maintenance room. B. Explain that forced exit is dangerous and assist them in staying calm while the technician is contacted. C. Tell them to climb through the top hatch if they are able. D. Call the fire department to forcibly extract the individual. Answer: B. Forcing elevator doors open can cause serious injury or death. Your role is to communicate, reassure, and wait for trained professionals. Never encourage self-extraction. Question 5. You arrive at a medical emergency and find an unconscious individual on the floor. Before approaching, what must you do first? A. Check the individual's pulse and breathing. B. Assess the scene for hazards to your own safety. C. Call 911 immediately. D. Begin chest compressions if there is no pulse. Answer: B. Scene safety comes first. An unconscious person may be the result of environmental hazards, electrical, chemical, atmospheric, that could harm you as well. Assess the scene before approaching. Figure mind map. A detailed mind map for Chapter 6, Health, Safety, and Emergency Response, designed for security guard training. The central node is a health, safety and emergency response with 6 main branches radiating outward. 1. Occupational hazards and WHMIS, with sub-branches for hazard symbols, safety data sheets. 3. Rights, know, participate, refuse, common risks, slips, violence, fatigue. 2. Fire safety, with sub-branches for alarm panels, conventional, addressable, analog, RACE protocol, evacuation procedures, fire warden duties, do not use elevators. 3. Bomb threat management, with sub-branches for telephone checklist, threat assessment, credibility factors, search procedures, grid method, zones, do not touch rule. 4. Suspicious packages and elevator entrapments, with sub-branches for package indicators, stains, wires, tape, response protocol, isolate, evacuate, notify, elevator communication, never force doors. 5. Medical emergencies, with sub-branches for emergency scene management, ESM, when to call 911, Good Samaritan Act, scene safety first. 6. PPE and scene management, with sub-branches for basic PPE, a vest, gloves, flashlight, specialized PPE, a chemical, medical, violent, scene mnemonic, documentation and chain of custody. The mind map uses color coding, red for fire and bomb threats, blue for medical and safety, green for WHMIS and PPE, orange for scene management. Icons, hazard symbol, fire extinguisher, telephone, cross, shield. The layout is organic with curved branches, suitable for training review and exam preparation. Chapter 7, Basic Security Procedures and Emergency Scene Management. Sections. Section 7.1, Foot Patrols and Access Control, Proactive Deterrence and Observation Techniques. Section 7.2, Crowd Control Principles, Managing Gatherings and Preventing Disorder. Section 7.3, Emergency Scene Management, ESM Command, Control, and Coordination. Section 7.4, First Aid Awareness, Protecting Life until Emergency Medical Services arrive. Section 7.5, Transitioning the Scene to Emergency Responders, Communication and Documentation. I once watched a rookie guard freeze at the entrance of a crowded concert venue. 5,000 people pressed forward, tickets in hand, patients wearing thin. The access control point, a simple rope barrier and a folding table, looked like it might collapse. The guard stood motionless, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of humanity surging toward him. He had the training. He had the uniform. What he lacked was a procedure, a mental checklist to fall back on when chaos threatened to overtake him. This chapter gives you that checklist. Procedures are not bureaucratic red tape. They are the rails that keep you on track when everything else goes sideways. From patrolling a quiet parking lot at 3 a.m. to managing a medical emergency in a crowded lobby, your ability to follow structured protocols will separate you from every untrained person on site. Section 7.1, Foot Patrols and Access Control, Proactive Deterrence and Observation Techniques. A security guard who stands in one spot for 8 hours is a static deterrent, visible, but limited. A guard who moves deliberately, observes systematically, and engages appropriately is a dynamic deterrent. Your presence becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is the enemy of anyone planning to breach security. Principles of effective foot patrols. Foot patrols serve 3 primary purposes: deterrence, observation, and presence. Each patrol should be conducted with intentionality, not mere repetition. The randomization principle is your first tool. Criminals study patterns. If you walk the same route at the same time every hour, you become predictable. Vary your patrol times, routes, and duration. Walk clockwise 1 hour, counterclockwise the next. Pause at irregular intervals to observe. Let people wonder where you are and when you might appear. The observation loop should guide every patrol. Scan the environment broadly, look at everything, not just what's expected. Identify anomalies, doors ajar, vehicles in unauthorized areas, individuals behaving unusually. Assess whether the anomaly requires immediate action, documentation, or ongoing monitoring. Record your observations in your memo book using the 5Ws and the H, Chapter 3. Author's note: I've seen guards walk the same route for years and miss a broken lock because they were looking at their phone or thinking about their dinner plans. The most expensive security camera in the world is useless if no one watches the footage. Be the guard who actually watches. Access control, beyond the checklist. Access control is the most visible security function at most sites. It's also the most legally sensitive. Every person you admit or deny becomes a potential liability. The 3-point identity verification process protects you and your client. Credential check: examine the ID or access card for tampering, expiration, and authenticity. Hold it at an angle to check for holograms or embedded features. Person comparison: look at the person's face, not just their photo. Note distinguishing features: height, build, hair color, visible tattoos, glasses. Purpose verification: ask a simple, open-ended question: what's your business here today? Someone with legitimate access will answer naturally. Someone with stolen credentials may hesitate or look away. Dealing with denied access requires careful procedure. Never refuse entry in a way that creates a confrontation in front of other visitors. Use the verbal deflection technique. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm unable to process your entry at this time. Please step over here and I'll contact my supervisor to assist. This moves the situation away from the entrance, de-escalates tension, and buys you time to verify credentials or call for backup. Section 7.2, Crowd Control Principles, Managing Gatherings and Preventing Disorder. Crowds are not inherently dangerous. But crowds are dynamic systems that can shift from peaceful to volatile in seconds. Your role is not to control every individual, that's impossible. Your role is to manage the environment and information flow to prevent disorder from taking root. The Crowd Psychology Foundation. Understanding why crowds behave differently than individuals is essential. 3 psychological principles govern crowd behavior. De-individuation. Individuals in crowds feel anonymous and may act in ways they wouldn't alone. Uniforms and visible authority counteract this effect. Social proof. People look to others to determine appropriate behavior. If one person pushes forward and nothing happens, others will follow. Early intervention prevents cascading violations. Frustration-aggression link. Crowds that feel blocked, delayed, or treated unfairly will escalate. Perceived fairness is your strongest de-escalation tool. The 4-stage crowd management model. Stage action example. The 10-second rule is critical. If you see a potential problem, intervene within 10 seconds. Every second of inaction signals to the crowd that the behavior is acceptable. Once the behavior becomes normal, re-establishing control requires significantly more force. Real-world application. At a concert I worked, a group of teenagers began climbing a fence near the side entrance. The senior guard immediately moved toward them, flashlight raised, and said firmly, "Get down. Now." The teenagers complied immediately. A less experienced guard might have waited for backup or called the police, by which time the crowd would have seen the breach and followed. Section 7.3, Emergency Scene Management, ESM Command, Control, and Coordination. When an emergency occurs, a fire, a medical crisis, a violent incident, the first 60 seconds define everything that follows. Emergency Scene Management, ESM, is the framework that turns panic into purpose. The ESM framework, the 3 Cs. Command is about who is in charge. On every emergency scene, one person must assume command. That person becomes the scene manager. Their responsibilities include assigning tasks. Don't ask volunteers, direct them. Maintaining an overview of the entire scene. Communicating with emergency responders. Ensuring scene safety for all involved. Control is about managing the environment. This includes establishing an inner perimeter, the immediate hazard zone. Establishing an outer perimeter, where bystanders are held back. Controlling access, no one enters without authorization. Managing traffic flow for emergency vehicles. Coordination is about information flow. The scene manager must gather information from witnesses and other guards. Relay accurate information to 911 dispatch. Brief arriving emergency responders before they enter the scene. Document all actions and communications. The STOP. Mnemonic for scene assessment. Before you act, stop. Stop, pause for 3 seconds. Do not rush in. Think, what is the hazard? What resources do I have? What is my priority? Observe, scan for dangers, injured persons, and exit routes. Plan, decide your first action and communicate it clearly. Author's reflection, I've seen guards run toward an emergency without stopping to assess, only to become victims themselves. A chemical spill, an active assailant, a down power line, none of these can be helped if you're incapacitated. The pause is not hesitation. The pause is professionalism. Scene handover protocol. When emergency responders arrive, your role shifts from active manager to support resource. Follow this protocol. Identify yourself clearly. I'm the security guard on duty. My name is name. State the situation in one sentence. We have a male approximately 50 years old, unconscious, not breathing, in the lobby. Report actions taken, CPR in progress. Scene is clear. Bystanders have been moved to the east parking lot. Hand over documentation. Provide your memo book or incident report to the lead responder. Step back unless directed otherwise. Do not interfere with medical or police operations. Section 7.4 First Aid Awareness, protecting life until emergency medical services arrive. You are not a paramedic. But in the first minutes of a medical emergency, you are the only trained person on scene. Your actions, or inaction, can mean the difference between life and death. The legal framework for first aid. In Ontario, the Good Samaritan Act protects individuals who voluntarily provide emergency first aid from liability, provided they act reasonably and without gross negligence. This protection applies to security guards as private citizens. However, if your employer requires you to provide first aid as part of your job duties, you have a duty of care to act competently. Key principles. Only provide care within your training level. Do not move a seriously injured person unless they are in immediate danger. Always obtain consent from conscious patients. I'm a security guard with first aid training. May I help you? Document everything you do and observe. The primary survey, DRAPC. When you approach an unresponsive person, perform the primary survey in this order. Danger, ensure the scene is safe for you and the patient. Response, tap the shoulder and shout, "Are you okay?" Airway, tilt the head back, lift the chin. Breathing, look, listen, and feel for 10 seconds. Circulation, check for signs of life, movement, coughing, breathing. If the patient is not breathing normally, begin CPR immediately, 30 chest compressions at a rate of 100 to 120 per minute, followed by 2 rescue breaths. Continue until EMS arrives or the patient shows signs of life. Common medical emergencies. Condition signs: immediate action. Critical warning: never put anything in a seizing person's mouth. The myth that people can swallow their tongues is false. You can cause choking or broken teeth. Section 7.5, transitioning the scene to emergency responders, communication and documentation. The moment emergency responders arrive is the most vulnerable point in any incident. Information gets lost. Witnesses disappear. The scene becomes crowded with people who don't know the site layout. Your job during this transition is to be the bridge between the chaos and the professionals. The SBAR communication tool. Use the SBAR format to brief arriving responders. Situation: what is happening right now? Background: what led to this situation? Assessment: what do you think is going on? Recommendation: what do you need or suggest? Example: situation: medical emergency, male, approximately 60, collapsed in the main lobby. Background: he complained of chest pain before collapsing. He has a history of heart problems according to his wife. Assessment: possible heart attack. He's conscious but confused. Recommendation: we need paramedics to the lobby entrance. I've cleared a path and have the elevator on hold. Documentation after the transition. Once emergency responders take control, your documentation becomes critical. Write your incident report as soon as possible while memories are fresh. Include exact time you were dispatched or arrived. Time emergency responders arrived. All actions you took and why. Any statements made by witnesses or the patient. Names and badge numbers of responding police, fire, or EMS personnel. Your observations of the scene after handover. Legal note: your incident report may be requested by police, insurance investigators, or lawyers years after the event. Write it as if a judge will read it, because a judge might. The after-action review. After any significant incident, conduct a brief after-action review with your supervisor. What went well? What could have been done better? Was there any equipment failure or communication breakdown? What training gaps were revealed? This is not about blame. This is about continuous improvement. Every incident makes you a better guard if you learn from it. Chapter 7 Review Quiz. Question 1. What is the primary purpose of randomizing your foot patrol routes and times? A. To increase your physical fitness through varied walking patterns. B. To prevent criminals from predicting your movements and timing. C. To ensure you cover every area of the site equally. D. To reduce boredom during long shifts. Question 2. According to the 10-second rule, why is early intervention in crowd situations critical? A. It gives the crowd time to calm down on their own. B. It prevents the behavior from becoming normalized and spreading. C. It allows you to call for backup before taking action. D. It ensures you have witnesses to support your actions. Question 3. Which of the following is the correct order for the primary survey, DRAPC? A. Danger, response, airway, breathing, circulation. B. Danger, breathing, airway, response, circulation. C. Response, danger, airway, breathing, circulation. D. Airway, breathing, circulation, danger, response. Question 4. When transitioning a scene to emergency responders, what does the SBAR communication tool stand for? A. Situation, background, assessment, recommendation. B. Safety, backup, action, response. C. Scene, bystanders, arrival, report. D. Status, brief, action, review. Question 5. Under Ontario's Good Samaritan Act, when is a security guard protected from liability when providing first aid? A. Only when the guard has completed advanced medical training. B. When the guard acts reasonably and without gross negligence. C. Only when the employer has given written authorization. D. When the guard has obtained consent in writing. Answer key 1. B2. B3. A4. A5. B. Figure mind map. Create a detailed mind map titled Chapter 7, Basic Security Procedures and Emergency Scene Management with the central node Security Professionals Operational Framework. Branch 1, Foot Patrols, Sub-Branches, Randomization Principle, Observation Loop, Scan Identify Assessed Record, Static vs Dynamic Deterrence. Branch 2, Access Control, Sub-Branches, 3-Point Identity Verification, Verbal Deflection Technique, Liability Considerations. Branch 3, Crowd Control, Sub-Branches, Psychology, De-Individuation, Social Proof if Frustration Aggression, 4-Stage Model, Assessment, Communication Intervention Containment, 10-Second Rule. Branch 4, Emergency Scene Management, Sub-Branches, 3CS, Command Control Coordination, STOP Mnemonic, Scene Handover Protocol, SBAR Communication Tool. Branch 5, First Aid Awareness, Sub-Branches, Good Samaritan Act, Primary Survey DRAPC, Common Emergencies Table, Limitations of Training. Branch 6, Scene Transition, Sub-Branches, Documentation Requirements, After-Action Review, Legal Reporting Standards. Include connecting lines between related concepts, e.g., Observation Loop connects to documentation, SBAR connects to scene handover. Use professional color scheme in navy blue for main branches, teal for sub-branches, gray for tertiary details. Style, clean, hierarchical, suitable for training manual illustration. Chapter 8, Conclusion, Professionalism as a Continuous Practice. Sections. Section C.1, Recapping the knowledge, integrating legal, tactical, and ethical responsibilities. Section C.2, Preparing for the provincial licensing exam, study strategies and key focus areas. Section C.3, Your first day on the job, applying the principles from day one. Section C.4, The path forward, continuing education, specialization, and career advancement. The first time I pinned on a security badge, I thought I had arrived. I had passed the exam, completed the 40 hours of mandatory training, and memorized the sections of the PSISA that would govern my career. I felt finished, ready, complete, a professional. I was wrong. Professionalism in security is not a destination you reach. It is a practice you maintain, every shift, every interaction, every decision. The guard who stops learning on the day they receive their license is the guard who will be outclassed by the next challenge, outmaneuvered by the next legal nuance, and outperformed by the next colleague who understands that this field demands constant renewal. This chapter is about that understanding. It brings together everything you have learned, the legal frameworks, the tactical communications, the emergency protocols, the report writing precision, and shows you how to weave them into a single, consistent professional identity. It also prepares you for what comes next, the exam, the first day on the job, and the career that stretches ahead. Section C.1, Recapping the knowledge, integrating legal, tactical, and ethical responsibilities. Throughout this manual, we have treated legal knowledge, tactical skills, and ethical conduct as separate chapters. In practice, they are inseparable. A single decision on shift can involve all three simultaneously. Consider a common scenario: you observe a person shoplifting in a retail store. Your legal knowledge from Chapter 4 tells you exactly what you can and cannot do under Section 494 of the Criminal Code regarding citizen's arrest. Your tactical training from Chapter 5 guides your approach, the words you use, your body language, your decision to call for backup rather than intervene alone. Your ethical responsibility, grounded in the PSISA Code of Conduct from Chapter 2, reminds you that you must treat the individual with dignity regardless of the circumstances, avoid excessive force, and document everything accurately in the report you learn to write in Chapter 3. These pieces do not exist in isolation. They form a single framework of professional judgment. Figure, a three-circle Venn diagram showing a legal knowledge, tactical skills, and ethical conduct overlapping in the center, labeled professional judgment. Inside each circle, specific elements are listed. Legal knowledge includes PSISA, Criminal Code, Trespass to Property Act, Charter of Rights. Tactical skills includes use of force framework, de-escalation, report writing, emergency response. Ethical conduct includes code of conduct, duty of care, impartiality, confidentiality. The overlapping center contains the single word, action. The integration principle. Every time you take action as a security professional, you are making three simultaneous decisions. A legal decision: is this action within my authority under the PSISA and other applicable laws? A tactical decision: is this the most effective and safest way to achieve the objective? An ethical decision: does this action uphold the dignity, safety, and rights of everyone involved? When these three align, you are acting professionally. When one conflicts with the others, for example, when a legally permissible action is ethically questionable or tactically unwise, you must step back, reassess, and choose a different path. This is not theoretical. I have seen guards lose their licenses because they knew the law but ignored ethics. I have seen guards fail to protect their clients because they knew the procedures but lacked the tactical judgment to adapt. The guard who integrates all three is the guard who earns respect, avoids liability, and builds a career. The continuous nature of integration. Integration is not something you master in training and then forget. It is a muscle you exercise every shift. Each new situation, each difficult person, each ambiguous legal question, each ethical gray area, strengthens your ability to see the whole picture. Practical exercise for integration. After every significant incident on shift, take 5 minutes to write down 3 answers in your memo book. What was the legal basis for my actions? What tactical considerations did I assess? What ethical principles guided my decisions? This simple habit will train your mind to think holistically. Over time, it becomes automatic. Section C.2, Preparing for the Provincial Licensing Exam, Study Strategies and Key Focus Areas. The Ontario Provincial Licensing Exam is a milestone, not an obstacle. It exists to ensure that every security guard entering the field has a baseline understanding of the laws, procedures, and ethical standards that govern the profession. With proper preparation, you will not just pass this exam, you will be ready for the realities of the job. Understanding the exam structure. The exam consists of multiple-choice questions drawn from the 40-hour mandatory training curriculum. Questions test your knowledge of the PSISA and regulations, including the Code of Conduct, legal authorities under the Criminal Code and provincial statutes, use of force theory and de-escalation techniques, emergency response procedures, report writing and documentation standards, professional conduct and ethics. The exam is not designed to trick you. It tests whether you have absorbed the core concepts and can apply them to realistic scenarios. Study strategies that work. Based on my experience training hundreds of candidates, I recommend the following approach. Strategy 1. Teach the material to someone else. The most effective way to confirm you understand a concept is to explain it clearly to another person. Find a study partner or even speak out loud to an empty room. If you cannot explain the difference between a citizen's arrest under Section 494 and an arrest by a police officer, you do not yet understand it well enough. Strategy 2. Create scenario cards. Write realistic situations on index cards, then practice identifying the correct legal authority, tactical response, and documentation requirements for each. For example, scenario card: you observe a person in a restricted area of a construction site at 2 a.m. They claim they are looking for a friend. What are your legal options? What de-escalation techniques would you use? What do you document? Strategy 3. Focus on the always and never rules. Certain rules in security are absolute. You never use excessive force. You never discriminate. You always document incidents in your memo book. You always preserve evidence. These non-negotiable standards are frequently tested because they define professional conduct. Strategy 4. Master the Code of Conduct. The PSISA Code of Conduct is not just a list of rules, it is the ethical backbone of the profession. Know each section, understand the rationale behind it, and be able to apply it to scenarios. Examiners often test the code through situational questions. Key focus areas for review. As you prepare, pay special attention to these high-yield topics. Citizen's arrest, Section 494: the exact conditions under which you can arrest, the limitations on your authority, and the requirement to call police immediately. Use of force framework, the progression from presence through physical intervention, and the principle that you may only use force that is proportional to the threat. Memo book requirements, the legal status of your notes, the prohibition against erasing entries, and the standard format for documenting incidents. Fire and evacuation protocols, your role in fire alarms, evacuation procedures, and managing panicked crowds. Prohibited conduct, activities that can result in license revocation, including use of excessive force, discrimination, and misrepresentation as law enforcement. The night before and morning of. Get adequate rest. Eat a proper meal. Arrive early with your identification and any required documents. Read each question carefully, look for qualifying words like always, never, except, and including. If a question seems ambiguous, eliminate obviously wrong answers first, then choose the best remaining option. Remember, the exam measures your baseline competence. It does not measure your potential, your character, or your future performance. Passing it is the first step, not the last. Section C.3, your first day on the job, applying the principles from day one. I remember my first shift vividly. I stood at the front desk of a corporate office tower, hand sweating inside my gloves, memorizing the evacuation routes for the 100th time. The training material felt distant, abstract rules for a world I had not yet entered. Then the phone rang. A tenant reported an unknown person on their floor. I had to act. That moment taught me something crucial: the principles you have learned are not just for exams. They are for real people, real decisions, real consequences. Your first day will feel overwhelming. It should. But you can reduce that overwhelm by focusing on 3 things. Priority 1, master your post orders. Every security post has written instructions called post orders or standing orders. These are your Bible for that location. They tell you the hours of operation and access control procedures, emergency contacts and evacuation routes, specific client requirements and expectations, prohibited activities and areas of concern. Read your post orders before your shift begins. Read them again during your breaks. Ask questions about anything unclear. The guard who follows post orders is the guard who avoids the most common source of errors, assuming rather than confirming. Priority 2. Build your situational awareness from the ground up. Situational awareness is not a mystical skill. It is a habit of observation. On your first day, start with the basics. Locate every exit and fire extinguisher in your area. Identify the nearest phone or radio for emergency communication. Note the regular faces, the tenants, the cleaning staff, the delivery drivers who belong. Notice the baseline, the normal sounds, smells, and patterns of activity in your environment. When you know what normal looks like, you will recognize abnormal instantly. Priority 3. Communicate your limits. You will not know everything on your first day. You are not expected to. What is expected is honesty. If a tenant asks a question you cannot answer, say, "I will find that information for you and get back to you within reasonable time." Then do it. If a situation exceeds your training, call your supervisor or emergency services. The professional guard knows their limitations and works within them. The one thing that will damage your reputation faster than any mistake is pretending to know something you do not. Credibility is built on candor, not bravado. Practical checklist for your first week. Confirm your uniform meets the regulatory requirements, no false police insignia, proper identifying markers. Verify your license is current and accessible. Master the emergency contact list for your site. Memorize the evacuation routes and assembly points. Establish a relationship with local police and emergency services. Practice writing one complete incident report per shift, even if nothing significant happens. Ask your supervisor for feedback on your first 3 shifts. A note on imposter syndrome. Many new guards feel like they do not belong. They compare themselves to veterans who move through the job with ease and assume they will never reach that level. This feeling is normal and temporary. Every experienced guard you admire started exactly where you are now. They made mistakes. They felt uncertain. They learned through repetition and reflection. Give yourself the grace to learn the same way. Section C.4, The Path Forward, Continuing Education, Specialization, and Career Advancement. The security industry in Canada offers far more than a single role. It offers a career path, if you choose to walk it. Professionalism as a continuous practice means actively seeking growth, not waiting for it to arrive. Continuing education requirements. Under the PSISA, security guards in Ontario are required to complete ongoing training to maintain their license. The specific requirements can change, so you must stay informed through the Ministry of the Solicitor General's website and your employer's training department. Beyond mandatory training, consider pursuing voluntary education. First aid and CPR certification is essential for any guard and is often required by employers. Nonviolent Crisis Intervention, NVCI, training enhances your de-escalation skills for high-risk environments. Mental health first aid prepares you to respond compassionately to individuals experiencing mental health crises, a growing need in the field. Advanced report writing and investigative techniques courses can open doors to supervisory or investigative roles. Specialization opportunities. The security industry comprises many sectors, each with unique demands and rewards. As you gain experience, you may choose to specialize. Loss prevention, focus on retail security, theft prevention, and asset protection. Requires strong observation skills and knowledge of civil recovery laws. Concierge security, work in luxury residential or commercial buildings, providing customer service alongside security functions. Requires exceptional interpersonal skills. Mobile patrol, conduct patrols of multiple sites, often at night. Requires driving skills, independence, and the ability to assess diverse environments quickly. Event security, work at concerts, sporting events, and festivals. Requires crowd management skills, flexibility, and physical stamina. Executive protection, bodyguard provide close protection for individuals. Requires advanced training, discretion, and often additional certifications. Investigative services, transition into private investigation, conducting surveillance, interviews, and evidence gathering. Requires licensing under the PSISA as an investigator. Each specialization requires additional knowledge and sometimes additional certifications. Research the requirements for the path that interests you, then pursue the training deliberately. Career advancement paths. Security offers clear advancement opportunities for those who demonstrate reliability and competence. Senior guard or lead hand supervises a small team on shift, coordinates responses, and serves as the point of contact for clients. Site supervisor manages security operations at a specific location, including scheduling, training, and client relations. Account manager oversees multiple sites for a security company, ensuring contractual compliance and quality standards. Operations manager manages the entire security operation for a company or region, including hiring, budgeting, and strategic planning. Security consultant provides expert advice to organizations on security design, risk assessment, and policy development. The key to advancement is visibility. Show up early. Stay late when needed. Volunteer for challenging assignments. Ask for feedback and act on it. Build relationships with supervisors and clients. The guard who is reliable, knowledgeable, and professional will be noticed. The lifelong learning mindset. I have been in this industry for over 2 decades. I still learn something new every year, a change in legislation, a new de-escalation technique, a lesson from a mistake I made or observed. The security professional who stops learning is the security professional who becomes obsolete. 10 years from now, the industry will look different. Technology will evolve. Legal frameworks will shift. Threats will change. The guard who survives and thrives will be the one who has cultivated adaptability, the willingness to unlearn old patterns and embrace new ones. That adaptability begins today. It begins with the decision that professionalism is not a certificate on your wall. It is a practice in your daily life. Chapter C, Review Quiz. Test your understanding of the concepts in this chapter. Answers are provided at the end of the manual. Question 1. Which of the following best describes the relationship between legal knowledge, tactical skills, and ethical conduct in security work? A. They are separate areas that can be applied independently depending on the situation. B. Legal knowledge is most important, while ethics are secondary. C. They are interconnected and must be integrated in every professional decision. D. Tactical skills override ethical considerations in emergency situations. Question 2. You are preparing for your provincial licensing exam. A study partner asks you to explain the difference between Section 494 of the Criminal Code and the Trespass to Property Act. What is the most effective way to confirm your understanding? A. Reread the textbook chapter silently. B. Explain the concepts clearly to your partner using examples. C. Take a practice exam and check your score. D. Memorize the section numbers without context. Question 3. On your first day at a new security post, a tenant asks you a question about building evacuation procedures. You are unsure of the answer. What should you do? A. Guess based on general knowledge from training. B. Tell the tenant you will find the correct information and follow up. C. Ignore the question and hope the tenant forgets. D. Refer the tenant to a different security company. Question 4. Which of the following is an example of continuing education that can enhance a security guard's skills beyond mandatory training? A. Watching security-related videos on social media. B. Taking a mental health first aid course. C. Reading a novel about private investigators. D. Purchasing a new uniform without training. Question 5. A security guard who wants to advance to a supervisory role should focus on which of the following strategies? A. Avoiding challenging assignments to minimize risk. B. Building visibility through reliability, punctuality, and initiative. C. Focusing only on completing the minimum required hours each week. D. Keeping knowledge to themselves to maintain an advantage over colleagues. Chapter C. Final Reflection. You have reached the end of this manual, but you are at the beginning of something far more important, a career built on the foundation of professionalism, integrity, and continuous growth. I have written this manual not just to help you pass an exam, but to help you build a professional identity you can be proud of. The security industry will test you. It will present you with difficult people, ambiguous situations, and moral dilemmas. It will ask you to be calm when others panic, decisive when others hesitate, and fair when others judge. You are ready for that challenge. You have the knowledge. You have the framework. Now you need the practice. Every shift is an opportunity to prove to yourself and to those you serve that professionalism is not a title, it is a choice. Choose it every day. Figure Mind Map, a central node labeled professionalism as a continuous practice with 6 main branches radiating outward. Branch 1, integrating legal, tactical, ethicals with sub-branches for Venn diagram concept, simultaneous decision-making, and post-incident reflection exercise. Branch 2, provincial exam preparation with sub-branches for study strategies, teaching others, scenario cards, always and never rules, key focus areas, citizens arrest, use of force, memo books, fire protocols, prohibited conduct, and exam day logistics. Branch 3, first day on the job with sub-branches for mastering post orders, building situational awareness, communicating limits, and overcoming imposter syndrome. Branch 4, continuing education with sub-branches for mandatory requirements under PSISA, voluntary certifications, first aid, NVCI, mental health first aid, and specialization paths. Branch 5, career advancement with sub-branches for roles, senior guard, supervisor, manager, consultant, and strategies for visibility and growth. Branch 6, lifelong learning mindset with sub-branches for adaptability, industry evolution, and daily practice of professionalism. Colors, central node in dark blue, main branches in alternating green and orange, sub-branches in lighter tones for readability.